to episode 617, and I'm excited to say that we have a guest, BluRayAngel from the GOAT Movie Podcast. I am so excited to have you on, man. How you doing?
Thanks so much, Daniel. Love talking movies with you, and I really appreciate that you're giving me your time to come on your show to talk about this stuff. I think you guys have a great following, and I can't wait to just dive into our love for movies because that's exactly what people come for when
Right,
it comes to the show no one asked for, when it comes to the GOAT Movie Podcast. So
right,
thank
right.
you all so much for those of you who are watching and listening. We really appreciate you. Daniel, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I love talking movies with you, man. Me and Julius. I know he'd love to be here talking with you because you know how we get down.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it can get heated, it can get deep, it can go
Exactly.
long. Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool. Well, that sounded a little weird, right? But yeah, it's fun. I love talking movies with you, getting into the debates, the agreements. It's all good stuff. Movies are great, So, but yeah, you've been doing good. You've been having those reaction videos that are crazy, right? So your reaction
Yeah.
videos have been getting like a whole bunch of traction, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to be honest. Like I I,
Yeah.
I never expected for the trailer reactions
Mhm,
to, get as much traction as they are.
mhm,
But
mhm.
what I love most about them, to be honest, is the reception that they've been receiving. Because I feel like that is what the epitome of Goat Movie Podcast is a place where they see content and people can become more passionate about movies. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I love about the trailer reaction and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'm not even the one who's like adamant about doing them. When I did that Batman trailer reaction, I got home from work and I was really tired. And I knew that DC fandom was live and they dropped the new trailer for Robert Pattinson and the Batman with Matt Reeves. But it was my brother who was actually like, hey man, we got to see this and you got to record your reaction to this. But I was like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of tired, to be honest. Like, I just got home from a long shift. I want to go to bed. He's like, nah, bro, turn on the surround system, turn on the TV, turn on the camera. Because, like my brother, he gets really hyped about movies and stuff like that. I mean, we all do when it comes to movies, whether it be independent, whether it be blockbusters, it doesn't matter. Like, a good film, a great film is a great film. And that's what's exciting. So my brother's like, you got to capture this because you never know, right? You never know.
Mhm.
And the thing that people don't understand is I don't just watch trailers on a laptop.
Mhm.
We gotta watch them in the theater room that we have.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have a 9.2 surround system, 9 channels, 2 subwoofers. So I'm
Wow.
telling you, I mean, if you ever come over, which I hope you do,
Mhm.
if you are in the theater room watching something, it's absolutely insane. So I'm just really glad that people can watch and get more excited for the Batman and just get really excited for what Matt Reeves is gonna do. That's what I really love doing about doing the. That's what I really love doing when it comes to the trailer reactions.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're crazy. So yeah. So your Batman one was the first one, right? I mean, that was the one that really, and it's not even your first. I think you've had other ones that are pretty big too, though. I think they just didn't blow up as big
Yeah,
as the Batman one so fast. You know what I mean? Right after, and
yeah. No, not nearly like that.
yeah, not like that, right? And so that was crazy. I mean, the trailer helps with what you're reacting to. I'm sure it helps, but your reaction was it's how you feel. Like that's how you feel. You can relate. That's how you feel when he says, "I am vengeance." I don't know. I feel that. I feel that. And then, but the reaction that went insane is your Mando reaction to your final episode when you're watching that last, the final act of that final episode or whatever, and
Yeah.
you have that reaction to it, and man, oh man, can you know it, yeah, it's just
Man, oh
crazy.
man, though.
Yeah, man, oh man, because that's exactly how what you do. That's what and so you watch it first, right? You
Yeah.
act that way, and then you go and you see a reaction. You're like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. There is other
Exactly, man.
people, and so it was really cool watching your reaction and others too. I saw mashups and there's like tears and reactions. You know what I mean? There's people jumping and screaming, hitting their homies like, oh my goodness. But your reaction it's
Yeah,
crazy
I
cool.
heard about that.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, I heard about
crazy.
that. To be honest, I don't watch other people's trailer reactions. I
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I, I never have because I do think that is like a there's like a specific audience for that.
Yeah,
People who
yeah,
log online and watch people's trailer reactions. That's
yeah,
not something I do. Like I,
yeah.
I would watch a movie instead. I would watch commentary on movie news and stuff like that. But I don't go out of my way to watch trailer reactions. But I have heard specifically with this Mando episode
Mm,
that there has been a response where people have been, crying, people have been cheering, people have been yelling stuff like that, similar to mine. And so I just really appreciate that there are people who are not afraid to just show their wholehearted passion for
yeah,
whatever they're watching. I think
yeah,
that's what I really like about trailer reactions because,
yeah,
to be honest, the beautiful thing about them is that who doesn't enjoy watching people get excited about something? You know what I mean? And I think that's why trailer reactions resonate with a lot of people.
yeah.
So, my Batman trailer reaction, when I posted that,
Mhm,
it's crazy because at first it didn't get any traction.
mhm.
It wasn't until I was at work and I started hearing my phone just ring like crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, there's like two people who text me, like my
Yeah,
brother, you and Julius through Messenger every day about movies,
yeah,
the love of my life. What's
yeah,
going on? Like, I know like three people.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so I look at my phone and it's like Matt Reeves has responded and shared not just our video, but our YouTube link. And I
yeah,
was just so blown away by the reception because he didn't have to do that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like he didn't have to do that. And he went out of his way to watch the video,
mhm,
share the same excitement. Oh my God, a fan loves what I'm doing.
mhm,
And I've told my brother this too. I said, man, Matt Reeves knows exactly how we feel. He
yeah,
knows exactly how the fans feel.
yeah,
And guess what? Since the Batman was in pre production during that time and
yeah,
they actually stopped shooting, what if there's a chance that because Matt Reeves saw a glimpse of our passion, not just mine, the entire Batman fandom,
yeah,
what if just by seeing a glimpse of me freaking the hell out with Robert Pattinson moving swift,
uh,
saying I'm vengeance, what if he was like, I'm gonna add more of this stuff in here?
yeah.
So it just goes both ways, the
I
passion
agree.
and the art and the creation and stuff like that. And that's what I really love about it the most, to be honest. Because honestly, when it comes to trailer reactions, I don't really see them as very beneficial to an overall channel or content creation because you can't monetize those videos. So I really just do them out of fun and just to click record, just like, harkening back to our days when we would talk movies, let's just hit record and see the audience that we can have come in. And, that's how it would be like at school and
Right,
stuff when people would surround us as we were talking about movies and stuff like that.
right, right, right.
That's what I really see as the benefit of trailer reactions, which I just really enjoy. I mean, what was your reaction when you saw the Luke Skywalker episode? I know I wasn't alone in that. I know I'm not crazy.
So I'm gonna have to add like a spoiler alert thing, but definitely spoiler alert for Mando. If you haven't seen it, because his reaction is on the final episode. Go and watch that. Definitely go and watch that. But what was my reaction? It's crazy, right? Because it was I had fallen asleep. I put my daughters to sleep, and then I got ready to do my thing after they fall asleep around 7:30, something like that.
Mhm.
And so, but I was so tired that I passed out. So I wake up late. It's like two something. And I was like, oh well, I'm too tired to, get to work or like, start working out or something like that. So maybe I'll just watch something, go back to sleep. And so I decided to put on Mando. And then as I put on Mando, I'm like, or Mandalorian. I keep saying Mando, like I know him. Uh, but I put on Mandalorian, and I was on the final episode, and you called me frantically. What, you called me, and you don't really call me. You text me, and you did, who? Why would you call me at that time? So I thought
It was,
I thought,
yeah.
oh my goodness, like something happened, like this is an emergency. And I'm like 10, 15 minutes into Mandalorian, right? And
Yeah.
so you call me like 10, 15 minutes in, and I didn't notice. You called me at first and I didn't notice. And then I think you called me again. And that's when I was like, oh shoot. Or I called back or something like that. But I called, and then you sounded so you're like, get off of, you didn't say anything. You were just like, don't go on your phone, don't go on YouTube, don't do Twitter, don't stop, don't. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, you were like, watch Mandalorian right now, watch it. And I was like, I'm watching it, I'm 10 minutes in, let me finish it, and I'll hit you back. He's like, call me right back, right when you're done, let me know how you feel. But you sounded like it was crazy, and it is crazy because if it's out, it's gonna be on anything that you look on
Oh
Instagram, on
yeah.
anything. It's
Oh yeah.
gonna be on anything, and
100%. Yeah.
and if that gets ruined, then then when you go to watch it, you're not going, it won't be possible for you to have that same genuine reaction or feeling that the show meant for, or the same reaction that you had in your in your reaction video, which is crazy. But I reacted like that. I watched the episode, and you see, again, spoilers, people, but you see the X-wing, and right away I was like, wait, what? And so I like, what, like, why an X-wing, why
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah.
So right when
I'm
you see the
connecting the dots, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. So right when you see the X-wing, you're like, wait, what? Already already the show
It's
was
perfect.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous, right? So the
yeah.
show up until this point was already giving me chills and goosebumps. Is ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous on an insane level, right? Then you see this X-wing come on, and you're like, wait, no, no, what?
Yeah.
And then you see the color of the lightsaber, and you're just like, what? The way they built up to, like, who it was, it's like,
It was
the
perfect.
whole time, but they're giving you little clues.
And you still can't believe it though.
And you
But
can't
you
believe it.
still can't believe it.
That's why it's like you see it, you think you even see R2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you even think you see R2 on the X-wing. You're like, what is that? Is that? No, no. And then you see the green saber, and then you're looking for a glove. You see that
Yeah.
one hand is bare, and you're trying to see if you can see a glove, but you don't really catch it.
Yeah.
And
Does he have two gloves on? We don't know. You know what
right,
I mean?
right. Well, that's what I paid attention to when he force pushed one of the dark troopers. He did have, on one hand, he did have a
Mm,
bare hand, and so I couldn't see if the lightsaber hand had a glove on when he was waving it, but
yeah.
or I don't remember. I was tripping, right? You're tripping, and so, and then when his face comes off, and his hood comes off, and you don't even care that it's bad, it's like not that great CGI, but it's, who cares, it was
Yeah.
so good, it's so good, it was so good. I thought it was amazing. And again, like, it was late, and and I was by myself, and I was just like, oh my god, like tripping, like throwing my
Yeah.
pillow, and like,
Tripping.
oh
Yeah.
my oh my goodness, no way. It's the redemption that we all wanted from
Oh
the
yeah.
Last Jedi, and the mess that we got with the last two films there, in the sequel trilogy. Or I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like they knew, and this was his redemption, and it mirrored the scene from Rogue One with Darth Vader.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like father, like son. It was so great. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Same here.
It was just
Absolutely
great.
perfect.
Yeah,
That's why I called you, Daniel, because I
yeah,
knew
yeah.
when I saw it, I knew
Uh-huh.
what when I was watching it, I couldn't believe what I
Yeah,
was seeing.
yeah,
Seriously,
yeah.
because it's a fan dream, really. Like
Yes.
what occurred in that episode is something that me, you, Julius, Rob would come up with and be
Yeah,
like, I would put Luke Skywalker in
yeah,
this episode. I
exactly.
would put him here and I would
Yeah,
use him. It's
yeah,
one of those like decisions where we hear something from Hollywood and we're like, who was in the room and decided to do that? That's
mhm,
not what I would do. This is what I would do.
yeah,
So essentially it is fan service, but the way that they use Luke
yeah,
was just so beyond it was so compelling within the narrative that it was like it doesn't matter if this is fan service, this is like absolutely perfect that Luke Skywalker, the actual epitome of Star Wars, would come in to save Mando and baby Grogu and everybody else in that moment. It was so freaking glorious. And I literally had called you right after we experienced that moment
I
in my trailer reaction.
I
Right
did.
after I was saying, like, unbelievable, unbelievable. I turned my camera off and I called you in that moment
Yeah,
as the credits were rolling. And I was like, you gotta see this. Like, this
yeah,
is absolutely insane because you're absolutely right when you say it.
mhm,
A moment like that was going to get everywhere the minute somebody saw it. Everywhere, everywhere. So I
yes,
knew that when I was uploading my video, I had to let the people that I respect the most and
mhm,
who I
mhm,
knew would appreciate this if they had no spoilers going in.
mhm,
I had to let you and Julius know
mhm,
I'm having a video coming up. You guys got to watch this just completely clean.
yeah,
Watch it. Trust me.
yes,
For me, it's the biggest reveal, I think, in any medium, to be honest. I think we've been waiting for that moment for decades,
yeah,
decades. Some people in their 60s have been waiting since, they had first seen it when they went to go watch Empire and Return of the Jedi. They've been waiting to see
Luke,
that version of Luke,
yes,
just like
yeah,
prime master.
Yes.
Star Wars Legends,
Yes.
expanded universe, Luke Skywalker, someone who can create black holes with his fist and take down starship destroyers with his own with the Force. Like that's exactly what we had been waiting to watch. So honestly, my reaction that it's as honest as I could be. I think it's completely warranted, and it's like I know I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Mhm, mhm.
So whenever there are like tidbits of comments that are like, really, who watches this like this? Like I wouldn't react this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my, I would hate to be with this person watching something, but it's like honestly, anybody who watches that scene and they're a fan and they claim they're a fan of Star Wars,
Mhm.
if they watch it like this, I would honestly think you're kind of crazy, to be honest, because it's like those moments are built for hype.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, well
filmmakers nowadays in the hype age,
mhm,
they know that there's certain scenes that they can craft where it'll get an audience on their feet. You know what I mean? Because they know exactly who their audience is. And we as viewers need to know how to read the room. For example, when we saw Infinity War and Endgame, those moments where they are quiet and they know the audience is going to be cheering during the scene, like when Captain America picks up the Thor hammer, that scene is quiet for a while and it really doesn't make sense because what fills that void? Cheer
yeah.
and clapping and just excitement. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what the last episode of Mando was. When Luke took off the hood, he didn't say anything for like 20 seconds, bro, because they knew exactly what they were doing and it paid off completely.
Well, so that's funny that you say that because it is like small little comments here and there that they're
Yeah.
so weird. They're like they're odd, and it's it's whatever addressing them. But if you're a fan, if you're a fan, this is what the fan like this is what the fan
Right.
wants, and so what you've wanted, you're now mad because you got it because you wanted it, and they knew you wanted it. So now you're mad because you're like, no, you just did that because you knew I wanted it. So now I'm mad. Now I don't like it because you knew I wanted it, so you gave it to me. I'm mad. Like it's just a
Yeah.
weird concept. But
And I'm mad that I see someone happy about what I wanted originally that I don't want now. It's just like,
it's weird all around. But one thing I will say, okay, technically, if we are really having like not just for fun, uh, debate about it or whatever, if I would say, okay, technically by definition, what they did is fan service, and so many things that are good in many shows, technically by definition, are fan service because they are giving us what the fan would want. So they are servicing the fan, right? And but there I do get that point where they're taking that. I think they're conflating like Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker showing up. I think they're conflating that with all fan service, and fan service I think is different, right? I think there's earned fan service and cheap fan service, right? There's
yeah,
like blatant fan service that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, and you know, like for example, I don't know, have you seen Wonder Woman 1984?
no, I haven't seen it
Okay,
yet, but I
I
do
won't
plan
say
on watching it
but
hopefully this month.
yeah, but it's certain things like if they give you a fan service moment that you know is that moment, like let's say um I don't know, somebody getting their powers, but you don't feel that moment, then you know it was earned. That means whatever happened before that was cheap. It didn't build that moment correctly. So this is cheap. It either was too soon or there was nothing to like. It kind of just came out of nowhere. It has again like how you said about the narrative weight that that moment had to the story. Sure, by definition, it is fan service, but it meant something to the story. It also
Yes.
it fit in perfectly and was fine so that they could allow that moment for them to give it to the fan, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, technically if we're debating the definition of fan service, I won't debate you on that. I think it was fan service, sure, but one thing I would argue is that it was earned with the show, the entire
Yeah.
show. I mean, if you saw the show, then yeah, I think that moment was earned for everyone. I think that was
So
a great
earned.
finale, and it was awesome. And
From
I,
the very
oh
first episode, from the very first episode to where it led, I felt like it was truly earned. Like,
yeah,
I
that's what I mean.
we were constantly thinking about like what Jedi could show up,
Mhm,
and honestly, the best case scenario is Luke, and it
mhm,
was Luke, and it just I couldn't be happier to ask for that moment, and when it comes to like the negative comments on those trailer reactions, they never affect me. Like
Yeah,
I never give them power.
yeah.
And I feel like that's I think the best advice that I can offer to anybody who's on YouTube and putting out their content is always focus on your own appreciation for your work, because really you're the only one who can affect how you feel about something, right? And then prioritize those who are actually fans of or appreciate what you put out.
Mhm,
So I always pay attention to that kind of stuff, because when you look at that trailer reaction, I honestly, people keep saying that it might hit 1 million views, and that to me is like, like holy crap! And it has like a 95% liked rating from anyone who's come across it, which I think is just a really big thing. But it also shows just how I think positive the Star Wars fandom is as a whole. You know, on Twitter, it could seem like every Star Wars fan hates Star Wars in a sense, but what I really like about that video is that it really showcases how much Luke Skywalker means to a lot of people, how much Star Wars means to a lot of people. You know, there, whatever negative comment I get, there's always a positive one that counters it completely. You know, like, oh, we'll have somebody say like, I would have stabbed my neck if someone was yelling in my ear like that. And then you'll have another comment with it saying like, you know, I wish my little brother was here
mhm,
to see Luke this way, because I know my little brother would have loved to have seen that. And just reading that kind of stuff to me is just like, yeah, that's exactly why I press record,
mhm,
and and hopefully encourage people to share their own passion, because I think what makes movie discourse so amazing is when everybody can share their views in a productive and constructive manner.
mhm. Yeah, no, and I agree. I think it, I think we were talking about it last episode, me and Saga, and we were talking about how it's because we're bringing you up and thinking about maybe having you as a guest or whatever, before I had even asked. I was just but yeah, I was saying how like, yeah, some people will think that's fake. And he told me, he brought up the Batman reaction because he saw that I sent him the reaction.
Mhm.
I was like, dude,
Yeah,
this was my react. I reacted.
yeah. This was
I was like,
me.
yeah, I was like, hey, I didn't record myself, but this is what I did. Watch the trailer. I was like, that's how I can explain it this way. And so
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, it's just crazy. And so I sent it to him, and he's like, he didn't think it was fake, but he's like, is he leaning into that a little bit? And I was like, no, dude, I don't think so. I'm telling you, I acted that way. I was like, I reacted that way. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. I mean,
How could you not, you know?
yeah, and we've been excited for several reasons. Matt Reeves, you know, Robert Pattinson doing Batman. That's interesting on its own. That
Super
combination.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and especially with the character that is Batman. I don't know. I think
Mhm.
that combination, that Batman, Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson,
Yeah, it's like
people are underestimating because of Robert Pattinson and the Twilight stuff or whatever. I think they're underestimating that combination. Anyways, getting sidetracked, but that's what going into this reaction. Or this trailer, I was like, oh man, what are they gonna come up with? What have they? Let's see, like a little bit. And they showed it, and I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome, and I think Patrick likes stuff, or Saga, he likes stuff, but I don't know if he reacts that way. But my thing is, I'm not disagreeing with that, or that you sit there and do that. You know how you said like, oh, some people sit there. I'm not disagreeing with that either. Like,
yeah.
well, that okay, that's how that made. But it's weird to say like this is how I feel, whether it's happy or straight face
Yeah.
to
And
say
since people saying you can't feel that way.
yeah, because I felt that way. Everyone else must obviously
Yeah.
feel that way too, exactly the same exact way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like that's so weird to me that people think that. That's so weird. It's really odd to me. It's really
The
odd, you
the
know?
internet is a very weird place, Daniel. You
Yeah.
know, like you have people out there who hate Mr. Rogers. You have people out there who hate Bob Ross. You know what I mean? So it's like one very important lesson I learned early on in my life
Mm,
is you're never going to impress everybody, and not everybody will like you. And they'll have their reasons, right? That they validate on their own.
yeah, right.
You can't not everybody will like you, and I've learned that, I've accepted that, and I'm totally cool with that. Whoever I vibe with, amazing, you know. And if you don't vibe with me, cool, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody to prove to yourself that you hate me and stuff like that. So that stuff will never bother me because
Yeah.
seriously, I think it's all about perspective. It's what you choose to focus on. And
Yeah, yeah.
so not only do I love putting those videos out, like with either me or Julius, you know, me or my brothers,
Mhm.
it personally it's rewarding for me because I'll get to look back 10 years and be like, you know, if I have kids by then and be like, kids, you
How I
know,
react.
this
Yeah,
is how I was at this moment. Now it's recorded in history.
yeah.
What we witnessed with that Luke Skywalker episode,
Mhm.
for me, that honestly, easily one of the most historic things in Star Wars
It
ever,
How
ever.
not? That's
You
where
know?
I even seeing the reviews, not the reactions, right? So even
Yeah.
watching the reviews, like seeing some people like, "Eh, it was meh," and then I'm thinking in my head, "Then what? Then what then? Then what then?"
What were you getting excited for?
Yeah, that's
Literally, because Luke
right.
is
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah, so if you don't yeah, so so if you don't it's really weird. It's like you say you're a fan, and then this is a historic moment. Like you said, we haven't had a after Jedi Luke Skywalker. We've never I mean, we have in the but not like this. Not
Yeah,
fighting
yeah.
like this. Not in his prime, you know what I mean? So how could you if giving you a live action prime Luke swinging his lightsaber does
Yeah.
does nothing for you, then yeah, I'm gonna question your credentials as like a true fan. Maybe you like Star Wars, maybe there's like you like the aesthetic and the feel or whatever, but you're not like a true fan. And maybe you consume a lot of the content, maybe you know a lot of stuff, but maybe you don't. Maybe you just don't have that feeling for it, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I guess that's not the definition of a true fan. Maybe that's not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like and that's okay. That's okay. And I'm not saying that all people that feel like that are saying that people that are excited are like, why are they excited? No, I'm sure they're like, I understand this is, but this is a historic moment. It's kind of like the people that hated on Endgame and Infinity War. Whatever that's ridiculous to me to hate on those. That in the first place. But whatever you say about them, it's historic. Period. End stop. Full stop. That's it. They're historic.
First of its kind.
They're
Yeah.
first of its kind. It's the first ending to a saga franchise of 20 films. Who has ever done that? And who has ever done it that cohesively? No one's ever done it, and no one's. I don't know if we're ever gonna do it again. It's not like that, especially because it's already been done first time. So
Yes.
it's almost like Avengers, and then Avengers 2 is gonna it's gonna have a hard it wasn't as good. I'm saying Avengers. I liked Avengers the first one more than Avengers Age of Ultron. But I'm just saying
Right.
right off the bat, it has a hard time competing with that first nostalgic feeling of seeing the Avengers going.
Of
Maybe like
course.
Transformers 2. You
Yeah.
ignore how not bad the movie is, but how not good it is.
Yeah.
You kind of like love Transformers more just because you see Optimus live action for the first time. So it
Yeah.
gives that speech, and you're like, oh wow, and it kind of makes you ignore a little bit. And then afterwards, Transformers 2, it kind of has a hard time overcoming that. How are you going to do that again? And so I think with the
Exactly.
saga, how are they ever going to do this again? This is the first of its kind, but people were still talking trash about it. But whatever you say, it's still historic. This moment, whatever you say about Mandalorian, whatever, I felt it was earned fan service, but I feel it was historic. That's one thing that you cannot debate. And again, if this doesn't make you go crazy, then what really
Yeah.
2 Lukes, 3 Lukes, like when they cloned 5 Lukes, and then
Clone
like,
Luke.
oh yes, like what will make you really, I just don't understand. I don't know what would make sense. But
Yeah, dude.
that show is one
I
of my
don't.
favorite shows of this year.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's that I said in my review that episode, it was actually my favorite piece of television from a show ever. Just because I just I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. And I've seen a lot of great stuff, but I'm telling you, there was something about the way they built up Luke.
Mhm.
There's something about, this year being absolutely just horrible, and we all are cooped up in our houses and we're lacking the theater experience and stuff like that. And the filmmakers know that. And they decided to release this season this year with that moment. And honestly, for me, in terms of my cinematic experience, that piece of television with Luke completely saved it for me. My brother said yesterday, he's like, I can't stop thinking about that episode. It really was an end game for Star Wars, but in a way, it's actually the beginning of something just now we're set on the right path where Star Wars is completely back. And I said in my review too, I said, it's been a very long time since I could say Luke Skywalker is back up there with the big boys like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man. Because honestly, for me, Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars character. And just to see him like that with the optimism, with the hope burning through his veins, him saying, I will give my life for that child. It just, it reminded me of what I first felt like when I watched the original trilogy and fell in love with the greatest story ever told in cinema. It really just, it was everything, man. And I just feel like watching it in my theater room too was like, yeah, most people are watching the episode on their laptops and stuff like that. So I could totally understand, or on their phones and stuff like that. So I can totally understand why nobody would, or why a lot of people wouldn't have a reaction similar to mine,
Mhm.
because I'm watching it in this like bombastic room and I'm completely in it, because one of the perks of quarantine was me and my brother were like, okay, we're not going to the theaters. We're trying to be as safe as we can. Let's bump up the room. So let's get a surround system and an 85 inch screen TV, and let's do it, man. Let's completely deck out the entire place. This is our setup right here. We got
Oh
the
my
7.2 surround system
goodness.
under the TV. 85-inch screen TV. We got Kylo on the left.
Candy.
We got Darth Vader on the right. We got Candy on top right. I'm telling you, man, we completely decked out the place. So for people who are like, how could he be watching this stuff and reacting like that? Just look at this setup. I'm telling you, you are completely immersed in the show. Daniel, I can't wait to have you over, man, one of these days where we can just watch something, maybe one of the Marvel shows or stuff like that, and you'll completely understand why I react the way that I do, because it's absolutely nuts, man. And I'm telling you, and to your point where Saga MC was like, how do I, how genuine is it? I don't really know. Well, that's completely fair because he doesn't know me, and the people who are commenting stuff like that, like this can't be real and stuff like that. They don't know me.
Yeah.
But what's most important is that I know who I am and I
Mhm,
know how I am.
mhm,
And so that's the first thing that's important. But I also have people around me. You know how I am. You know how we are, when we go to the movie theaters and watch those movies. You know how we were after we saw Civil War. We were freaking
yeah.
the
Yeah.
hell out, man.
Yeah.
I've watched so many things with my brother knows how I am. He knows who I am. Yeah,
Mhm,
Julius has watched so many things with me. He knows
mhm,
exactly who I am too. So it's like cool to know that whenever there is negativity and stuff like that, I have you or my brother or Julius. And not that I need you guys to do that, but I have you guys to be like, we know this is the real deal, and that's what makes it even more special and really cool to see people celebrating this and along with their passion as well.
Well,
I really love that about just trailer reactions.
no, and it's cool because when um he asked me because he knew I knew you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So he was like, the reason I'm asking you is because I do uh I do know that you know him. So like if you say it's genuine, then I believe you because I know that he acts this way. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is the daily. This is like what I've shown
Look
him.
at our messengers, like we're
Yeah,
always
yeah,
tapping
exactly.
in caps and stuff like that.
Yeah, look at our yeah, exactly. Look at our messages and stuff. I mean, you call again, like you call me for Mando, which was a good call because you wake up in the morning. I'm sure so many people are disappointed. That
Oh
they
yeah.
saw something. Either they turn on their even their YouTube, even turning on your hub. I'm sure
Yeah.
morning like for your YouTube would destroy. I'm sure would mess somebody up. So it's like you got to really be careful. You got to be really careful. But yeah, it's it's cool. I loved your reaction. I thought it was really dope, you know. But that's our stuff. And yeah, it's funny you say greatest story ever told, because before the sequel trilogy, I would always say I'm a Marvel guy, right? I like Marvel. I like DC too. I just have preferences for movies. Some are better than others, you know, comics, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I love, love, love Marvel. A lot more characters that I love are in Marvel. But I would always say, even growing up, is like I acknowledge that Star Wars was the greatest story ever told, though. You know, like if you're reading something, it's just the greatest story ever told. It is,
Yeah.
you know, and I think they kind of went awry with the prequels. But now looking back on it, I'm thinking like, you know what, maybe it wasn't that bad. You know, I remember I wasn't a fan of the prequels, as you know, when they came out and I went to watch them. I think my dad took me to go watch them, and I remember I was not happy because we had been it's Star Wars, not waiting. It's fine if they left it with the trilogy, you know, that's fine, you know, but this comes out. You know, we've been waiting for since you saw them, since you were a baby and can see things and acknowledge things, you know, and so
Mhm.
you're just like, oh man, this is crazy. And you know the time that has passed, so the anticipation for it. And then it came out and I was like, oh man, no, no. Why? You know? And I didn't like it. I know you're a fan, right? You like the prequels, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely love the prequels. I mean,
Yes.
that's those were that was my first exposure to Star Wars, you know. It's what
Mhm.
led me to the original trilogy, you know, and to
Mm.
discover the pinnacle of Star Wars, you know. Because
Okay.
I was a 90s baby. I was born in 97, and so I saw Force Awakens in theaters as a kid.
Oh,
I'm sorry, not Force Awakens, The Phantom Menace
anyway.
as a kid. And
Mm.
I just remember thinking to myself, this is so much like greater than life itself watching this on the screen. It's like
Yeah.
I think George Lucas, what he did was he created new fans to go back to the original trilogy. Because I
Mhm.
think without it, I don't think the fandom wouldn't have been as large as it is today. So building
I
this
agree.
world where he's just focusing on world building and introducing these new characters like Darth Maul, and um, I just think it was a great avenue for kids to lead themselves to the original trilogy. That's why I love scenes like, you know, the pod racing scene, you know, Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul, the music itself. I just think there's just so much in it where it does have the DNA of Star Wars, but I do feel I do understand the negativity or the negative criticisms in those films because I can see it. It's just everything else just outweighs like the love that I have for Star Wars just outweighs all the negative stuff in there.
So that's what's funny that you say that, right? Because not until this sequel trilogy do I appreciate the prequels. Not that I like them now, you know, but I do appreciate them as looking back in hindsight, how you said that it did grow the fandom, you know, and it, and I didn't like it as a film. I didn't like it as a movie. I thought the movie was bad. But one thing I will say is that I did feel like I was in Star Wars, and not before that. I anything Star Wars, a show, something, anything like that. I wanted to feel like I was watching or reading something Star Wars, like I was in that universe. That's what I wanted, and I wanted it to be good because everything Star Wars was pretty good up at, I mean, maybe the Ewok stuff and the holiday special.
Hey, I like the Ewoks.
I watched those on, I think, on Betamax. I thought for some reason had those Ewok movies, and like the they made Caravan of something, and Fight for Endor or something like that. But I
Mm,
would watch them on repeat. I went back to watch them like in high school or after high school, and I was like, oh my god, I would watch this on repeat. I loved this, and it was so bad, you know. But yeah, so maybe stuff wasn't as good all the time, but you want to feel like you're in Star Wars, and I feel like these last movies didn't make me feel that way. They did
mhm,
not make me, at least Last Jedi and Rise, I didn't feel like I was in the galaxy far, far away. You know, I didn't in a long, long time ago. I didn't feel that at all. And so
yep,
with the prequels, as maybe you can criticize the structure of it or whatever, you know, maybe the screenplay isn't as great, but when they're so one thing I will say that I did like is Darth Maul. Obviously, I
mhm,
mean, come on, that was so dope. But the one thing, you know what I mean? He was so dope.
Yeah, yeah, and Obi-Wan being like, "No, I need to avenge my master." Like
Yeah. Yeah,
the
shout out
emotion
to
there is so
Ray
real.
Park. That was Ray Park, right? Ray Park did
Yeah.
Darth Maul. Yeah, that was and he killed it as Darth Maul. Obviously, I mean, he didn't have role, like, really.
No, for that role, it was all about the physicality
He
and the
was, and he
presence, and
handled
and and Ray Parker solidified himself as an icon as Darth Maul, I
that
thought.
because of that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and his other work too, but yeah, that's part of it. But the other thing I really liked about Phantom Menace was the pod racing. The pod
Oh,
racing
man.
did it for
Do,
me.
do, 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 do.
Yeah. Oh man, the pod it was ridiculous, right? Like if you could just give me like maybe the 15 minutes of just Maul and pod racing that they had in that movie, I'd be cool with it. Maybe Obi-Wan's okay. He had some of the dialogues, whatever, but the pod racing was cool, and I was so happy when they released the pod racing games on 64. Oh man, I was so happy. But yeah, those were those that's why I like those. I did feel like I was in a galaxy far, far away. I didn't like the story too much, but I did feel that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and now watching these new ones, I'm kind of like, you know, um, I didn't like Last Jedi. I really didn't like Rise of Skywalker. I thought that was bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I liked Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was just
Love Rogue One. Yeah.
like a bad first act. The second act was whatever, but like I thought it was a good movie overall and one of the most iconic Vader scenes that will ever see. And
Yeah.
Solo, I thought was pretty good. I thought I was
Solo is
expecting it to
great.
be bad. Yeah, right. I thought it was gonna maybe because I thought it was gonna be bad,
The
but
idea was bad. The
yeah,
idea was bad.
yeah,
Therefore, our anticipation for it was like, oh man, what are
yeah,
they really? Someone else playing Harrison Ford?
right,
Like, come on.
right.
But watching it, it's like,
Yeah.
no, it really felt like a Han Solo film.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was like, oh man, okay, okay. I kept waiting. I kept waiting for the moment that I would be waiting for. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Hmm.
moment where you kind of like stop caring as much and you're kind of just waiting for the next moment to care or
Yeah.
end. But and I kept waiting for that moment for my feeling to drop, for me to get out of the movie, and I never did. And not until the end credits rolled, and I was like, what, like I finished that. I was pretty good. I processed it, I liked it, and it kept me entertained the whole time. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good. So they're not messing up everything, but let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. So it's funny, we're talking about all this, and we've kind of mentioned it back and forth. And I think I mentioned it to Saga, but I was gonna say, uh on this channel we're starting the decanonize the sequel trilogy movement. Hashtag decanonize. How do you feel? How would you feel just handing everything over to Dave Filoni, kind of decanonizing the sequel trilogy, just kind of how they did the expanded universe a long, long time ago, I guess. And
Yeah.
um, it's not similar. It's similar. It's not the same thing. I understand that the expanded universe was never officially canonized or decanonized. It just kind of was
Right.
left up into the air, and that's why it was a big deal when they finally said, "Okay, not canon." But this, do you think? I do think there are cons to it, right? It would harm the storyline, right, as a whole. Like, oh, we made this 3 movies, not even like one blip. It was like we made
Yeah.
3 movies, a trilogy. Let's just ignore it, So, like, I don't know about that, but I think Dave Filoni is on to something here. I think they have something in Favreau. They have something here. Um, Let them just start over from here and just, you know. I loved Force Awakens. It made me feel like Star Wars. I loved
Yeah.
Star Wars is back. But I would be okay because to me, if they erase the trilogy, to me, it's kind of like just erasing Force Awakens, and that's all we're really losing.
Right.
Last Jedi and Rise is I don't it wasn't a loss to me. It's not a loss if we just say, hey, that was so bad. Let's not. So for me, it would be almost like just losing Force Awakens. And I'm okay with that if we have Dave Filoni, the guy that just gave us this Luke, doing the rest of it. I think yeah, I would be cool with that. I would be
Yeah.
cool with that.
Well, I definitely think that Disney from the get-go should have never erased the expanded universe. I think they should have allowed it to exist and pick and choose the best parts from it. So I think that was the first mistake, to be honest. And I also do think they should have picked up um earlier than Force Awakens, I think. I think Mando should have been the true sequel trilogy, to be honest, because look where it led us, to that Luke. But personally, I love Force Awakens and I do love The Last Jedi. And I can understand the complaints that people have with The Last Jedi. I remember when I watched it, of course, how crazy was it to see Luke, throw the saber away and see him in a way where we weren't used to, because we know he is one of the most positive and optimistic characters who would never give up, who was able to turn Darth Vader. So why is he having a problem with his nephew and stuff like that? So I get those criticisms and stuff like that. But for me, why The Last Jedi works so much is to see the return to form of Luke Skywalker when he does come back, and even though he's not there, he has that Force ghost or that Force projection to save the rebellion. That moment really hit hard with me. I really love that moment because for the first time, I felt like I'd seen Luke, who do we miss since Return of the Jedi? Um, and honestly, I think the reason why you love Force Awakens so much is because it is heavily fantasy, like every other Star Wars movie, versus The Last Jedi, where I think it's more philosophical. And I think that's why I feel it's the most unique Star Wars movie and one that is kind of challenging to what the core essence of Star Wars is. Because I do feel The Last Jedi is heavy in themes, the ideas of what it means to be good and bad, and Luke not understanding what that is, which is kind of weird because it's like, well, why wouldn't Luke know what that is? That he is literally purity. He is good. He knows how to combat darkness and make people return from the light. So it's a crazy juggle of themes and telling story in The Last Jedi. But I thought Rise of Skywalker was just a complete mess. It's actually the only Star Wars movie I didn't buy because I just I could not stand it. There were so many decisions in that movie where it was like, this just feels like an absolute mess. And
Scene after
I
scene.
just yeah, I just did not appreciate it enough.
From the get-go, you're just like, "Oh, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh."
Yeah.
The whole movie till the credits roll, I was just like, "Oh, oh, oh." Every scene, like, they jump from,
Yeah.
like, scene to scene, I was just like, "Man." And I thought Last Jedi was bad, because those moments didn't hit for me. I thought I do think I agree with you. It is more philosophical than Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens succeeds because the prequels weren't as good as they should have been.
Mhm.
So then we wanted a return to the OG feeling of because you're saying about challenging Star Wars, right? Phantom Menace did that when they introduced midichlorians, right? That's when they. I remember that very statement, like when they started introducing that in that movie. I remember for sure I was already annoyed. I was already annoyed already, and so then they introduced that, and then I was like really taken out of Star Wars for a second. You know what I mean? Like not until I came back to the pod racing and then you're in that world of, you know what I mean, where you feel like you're in a galaxy far, far away. But those moments when that did challenge my whole idea of Star Wars, where I thought anyone can tap into the force, and but now it depends on your blood count, like and how many midichlorians you have. So that was also challenging to
Yeah.
my personal idea. I mean, everyone can interpret it however, but
Yeah.
but that was my
But the
personal.
thing is but the thing is with the midichlorians, those were early on, before Luke's time. So maybe midichlorians was just a way of George Lucas just showcasing that people are slowly understanding and discovering what the Force is or how to describe it to others,
Mhm.
and by the time we get to the original trilogy, we know what the Force is. It
That's
surrounds
right.
us all. It's in all living things and stuff like that. So I
Ah,
feel like if you
yeah,
might look at midichlorians or
yeah.
that moment like that,
Mhm.
um maybe it won't bother you so much. But I love when they bring it up in Mando. They don't say midichlorians.
Yeah,
Mando says, what's his M count? And
yeah.
that to me in itself is like, that's pretty cool. That's a
Yeah, yeah.
cool homage
Well,
back to that
it
moment.
was a cool throwback. That's what I'm saying, right? Not I felt a certain way, when the prequels came out, right? But
Mhm.
but but now looking back on it, I'm like, oh man, maybe it wasn't, maybe they weren't as bad, And already I didn't think they were as bad. Again, I like the pod racing, I like Darth Maul, but obviously the structure of the film, it has its issues and stuff like that. But now looking back on it, like you said, like in Mando, I like that throwback. I like a lot of these throwbacks to Rebels and to Clone Wars and all of these things. And I just think they're onto something. and yeah, like you said, it was a big mess. Last Jedi, I just think they did Luke wrong. Like Luke, that character who is of the story, the greatest story ever told, deserves something a little bit better. I do get the point that they were trying to say, and trying to be philosophical, but I it just didn't hit. It didn't hit with me. Like I wanted something more. I felt like it was missed opportunities. I thought even in the games or in the comics, in the expanded universe or whatever, in a moment like that where Luke is staring at these, where he's about to die, they're about to blast on him. What are they, ATATs or ATSTs, whatever? They're
Mhm.
about to blast on him, and he would bring one down just to show, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I actually thought he was gonna bring them all down. How
that's
ma-
what I thought. I thought, oh my, they set up that moment, and then they even like set up like they're gonna shoot, like like, and they load up,
Yeah,
and then you think like the whole time I was thinking like, now you messed up.
yeah,
Now,
yeah. He's gonna stop all the
yeah,
blasters, and then he's gonna bring them all
yeah,
down.
exactly. He's gonna stop, you're gonna shoot at him, and he's gonna be like, bum, 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 or, and then he's just gonna bring them all down. Exactly. And we didn't get that. And so, and not that it has to be that, but I
Yeah.
just thought that, it was cool. It did demonstrate power, that he wasn't even there and he was able to combat with Kylo Ren and basically win, but
Yeah.
like as a force, as just a projection, which is insane power, so I understand.
Do you think that movie suffers from criticism when it comes to like expectations versus what you're actually seeing? Do you
No.
think that some people expected to see something and therefore were like, well, I'm not even going to pay attention to what actually was established?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I'll tell you why. This is similar to the thing of the complaint about fan service. Yes, it is fan service for Mando, for Luke to show up. Yes, it is fan
Mhm.
service. But that's not a reason to hate it, that all fan service isn't the same, isn't created equal, right? And so here is the same, it's the same thing. It's like, did I expect something else, and did it suffer because I expected something else? Yes, by definition it did, but only by definition. It's a sequel, so it means it follows like a sequel, like an arc, and
Mhm.
I feel like it didn't do that. You could tell that they were trying to backpedal and go in a different direction that Force Awakens was doing, and that took me out of the film it, already, that so now I'm like, oh, you're trying to change things, like, oh, okay, all right, meaning you felt like you messed up or something. I don't know, now I'm thinking that, now I'm like, what? So now where are we going? Like, where? Oh, okay, this way, okay. And I feel like when I was saying that Jedi was bad, or the people that were saying that Jedi was bad, and people were like, no, this is good. Like my brother, I think my brother liked Last Jedi, and he's an editor, so I mean, he has some things to say. I think he saw it from that structure and liked the film,
Mhm.
um, but I think, like I was telling him then, I was saying, I think you're gonna see how bad this movie is when the last one comes out, because you can't do that. You can't, in the trilogy. You follow the trilogy, like your own arc, the decisions that you've made in the beginning, right? You follow it, and when I can tell that you're stepping out, like you're now deviating from that, for the last one to fit into this one and now fit all of it, now it's a mess. It's kind of like when
Mhm.
I saw Covenant. It's very, very similar. I saw Prometheus. Like it or not, they made decisions there. I liked Prometheus. I loved Prometheus.
I
Not
love
loved, but
Prometheus.
I thought it was really good. I thought they could have made a few things a little bit different, but overall, I thought it was pretty good for coming back for an alien, especially compared to all the other Alien films. Like, come on. And so I thought it was pretty good. When Covenant comes out, you can tell that they're deviating from that story. So now I'm like, just make a new trilogy. Just scrap that now, because now the third film's gonna suck, and it's gonna prove, like, when you're debating with people like, oh, Covenant's not that good, and be like, no, it's really great. No, you're gonna see the third film how this not gonna fit into any of this, and it's gonna make no sense. And so
Mhm.
that's where I think you're setting up for a bad, a guaranteed bad third film. And that's where I was kind of disappointed in watching Last Jedi. As I'm watching it, I'm like, man, the third one's gonna suck. This is gonna suck, man. And so now I'm watching it like, okay, this is not that bad. You know, and I'm thinking that as I'm watching, like, this is not that bad, but dang, whoa, they set up for a bad, like, they had something and they completely were like, no, let's start a new plot of land over here. So now you're
Mhm.
gonna have like a an arc try to finish. So you're gonna have a sequel and an end film in the last film, and that's never a good thing when you're trying to fit
Right.
everything that you missed to make sense at the end. And you could tell that Rise was that, you know what I mean? And so that's why I was
Yeah.
like telling my brother and telling you, I think at the time, like, no, you're gonna see, and like, sure, individually standing alone, if I just sat and didn't watch Force Awakens and didn't watch Rise and I watched this film's like whatever. It's not, it's whatever. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't like it. I don't think it's that great, but I think it's made worse because yes, it is a sequel film. So yes, I do have expectations. Yeah, that it follows the arc of the story. You know what I mean? I didn't have expectations that it's the most fantastic movie I ever saw in my life, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do have expectations that it follows the story. So when it doesn't do that, it's not only the expectations that they change the characters. That's okay. You can change the characters, but it's not built from the same starting point that was Force Awakens. It's built from a new starting point, or at least it felt that way. And so for me, so yes and no. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
Mhm.
going in bad, like, oh, I think this is bad because I saw the reviews, and like, oh no, I just have, they're gonna mess up. And so no, and no, I had expectations by definition, yes, because it's a sequel film. So I had expectations that they follow from the first, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think
Because
if
what I was saying was,
in a
if I
Jedi,
had
you know,
if I had done The Last Jedi, would I
Mhm,
make Luke the way that Ryan Johnson did?
mhm,
No, I would have had Luke, still be that same character that we all know him and love him for. But eh, getting over the first initial like, oh man, why did he throw the saber away? Why is he like this?
mhm,
I looked at the story itself and I'm just thinking to myself, I hope Luke finds his way back, because I think it's understandable in defense of Luke in that portrayal. I think it's understandable 30 years past Return of the Jedi
mhm,
for Luke to be different. Something has happened to him where it changes him. And so I understand why, and especially since we see the flashback of him looking at Kylo and seeing what Kylo has done, you know, slaughtering the Jedi Temple and stuff like that. I think it's understandable for Luke as a character who isn't perfect, but tries to do the best that he can, to feel like he is worthless, to feel like he's failed so miserably that he just doesn't want any part of it anymore. I feel like that's really relatable to see in him as one of my favorite characters. And then for him to come back and be like, no, I'm not going to be the last Jedi. That to me was very inspiring. And I was saying on my review, what I really appreciate about The Last Jedi is I think without The Last Jedi, without the way that I experienced it, without the way that you experienced it, the moment in Mando when Luke does show up and we see the Luke that does show up, I don't think it would have had anywhere near the impact that it had without what The Last Jedi did. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, but if we're talking about hypotheticals like that, that moment that we did see Luke, that was supposed to be that moment. You get it? So, like that.
but we kind of
He
did get
didn't.
that moment though in Last Jedi when he comes out. Yes, we did think he was gonna pull everybody down,
Mhm,
but we did get that the music that comes on dun 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 dun, dun and him walking out to it, and you see the flames. For me, that was that moment.
mhm,
But seeing Luke and Mando was the the moment that we had been waiting for, and I
mhm,
feel like my appreciation for Last Jedi has increased because without that feeling of like, oh man, I wish we could have seen Prime Luke.
mhm.
I feel like my reaction to it, all of our reactions to Luke showing up wouldn't have been nearly the same.
So I'm thinking maybe you can set trilogies. Well, now you can't, right? Because the trilogy.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, what if you just do? Because the whole thing was like, but you killed him. So now he's
Yeah, which I wouldn't have done. I wish he didn't die,
right,
I
right.
wish he didn't die. If we decanonize this trilogy, we'll
Mhm.
never be able to see the Trinity that we've always wanted to see with Luke, Leia, and Harrison Ford. I wouldn't want to see all three of them,
Yeah,
CGI and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I think the significance of the sequel trilogy is, Carrie Fisher's um contribution. It is one of her last films and stuff like
That's
that.
true.
So I,
That's
I feel
true.
like
Yeah,
I feel like decanonizing them would
yeah,
isolate a lot of fans.
yeah.
And like I'm telling you, I feel like without The Last Jedi, it just going back, if we, further along down the line, if I have kids, you want to show your daughters,
Mhm,
look, this is the way you watch it. I
mhm,
feel like if you go in order, if you watch all of them, the sequel trilogy, and then go to Mando the way that we watched it,
mhm.
that's the proper experience to see that moment because it's all about that buildup of seeing the myth, the legend, Luke Skywalker.
So for your kids, you would show them episode 1 to 3 first and then
No, no. I for
Oh,
me, I always go theatrical release
okay,
because
okay,
that's
okay.
just the way that that life goes, and I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the ideas that were presented in those movies reflect that time,
yes.
and so that's just the proper way to see it. That's
I
just the way
agree.
that I do it.
I agree. I think so too. I think it goes the OG first and then the prequels and then whatever,
Yeah.
or OG and then the Ewok movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But also to the point of like starting off now fresh on a very high note after the season finale of Mando. I
mm,
feel like your appreciation for the sequel trilogy. I don't know about Rise of Skywalker because I think that one's just like
yeah,
the decisions made in that movie are set in stone, and it's like, oof, I don't know if they could ever fix that. But
yeah.
I think people's appreciation for the Last Jedi will increase
Mm,
if they start connecting the dots from the season finale of Mando, season 3, and also what occurs up to the point of when all the Jedi are slaughtered. I
yeah,
had mentioned that what if baby Grogu is at the Jedi temple
mhm,
and he's one of the ones that gets slaughtered?
yeah.
Then I feel like it's believable for Luke to be at where he is in The Last Jedi and will be on board with him because they've established such a strong character in baby Grogu and his relationship to Mando. Do you feel that that could improve the story if they connect those dots?
I do, and you know why I do is because remember I was telling you when again, Mando spoilers, but when Ahsoka shows up, and
Yeah.
I was telling you how like that kind of changes the stakes of Mandalorian. You know what I mean? I thought like
Yeah.
where's Luke at? Like wouldn't Luke
Yeah.
be here? Like I don't get it. Like and I understand that Mandalorian finally gave us a story outside of Luke and like even when you're watching that original, that's why I love the Ewoks movies as a kid. I know they're
Mhm.
bad. I rewatched them as an adult, and I was like, okay, this is horrible. But 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 I would watch them as a kid because I thirsted for a story that was like in Star Wars, but not like what's going on. And every time Star Wars is happening, I'm like, yeah, but these are entire planets. What's happening on the same planet, but maybe on another part of the planet? What's happening on another
Right.
planet? There's a bunch of these planets. Or like, what about the dudes sitting over there? They're talking about something, and like they're on a like, what are they doing? And so Mandalorian finally got us that, and it's ironic. Like now we're, in Mandalorian, we finally get that step outside. But we wanted Luke, like the redemption and stuff like that. We still wanted the Skywalker name to grace it, and
Yeah.
but I again, yes, I do think that Last Jedi, because of it, we do feel the way that it is. But I think I mean, that's
You
again,
just rather would not have had that. You just rather would not have experienced that distaste first before seeing one of the most epic things we've ever
right.
witnessed.
It should have been good then. When I saw it then, I was waiting to see this good moment. Then that's when I was like excited to see it, and they didn't really do it, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. And now with all of this Star Wars, with all this announcement that Disney made and everything, there's just Star Wars for years, right? Just years of Star Wars and Marvel and oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's
And I can't wait to see it all. I do feel like with these streaming services, it's going to be a much pleasurable at home to watch them,
Mhm,
because we still are in this pandemic and stuff like that. But
mhm.
man, how awesome would it have been to have seen that Luke Skywalker moment in theaters, man. I honestly feel like there's nothing like it. Like I honestly think the last episode of Mando is like the nail in the coffin to the argument of like what's better to experience the thing that you enjoy watching at home or in a movie theater. I guarantee you we all would have became force ghosts if we saw that in the theater together.
I was melting as and what's true about that? You know what's true about what you're saying is because it mirrors the Rogue One scene, right? And Rogue One isn't up the build up isn't half as good as Mando's build up until
Yeah.
this moment. Isn't half as good. But still, okay, so now you're getting this clip of Darth Vader and like this is a movie theater. Like I'm watching a fictional like not even like a real movie, like like with real people and real scenarios and real things. I'm watching the most fantastical sci-fi thing ever made, like of not of this earth, not real, not real. And I'm sitting
Yeah.
here and I'm watching it, and the movie was like, oh, I'm okay. Like this movie's okay. This is all right. It was pretty good. It had its moments. It's pretty good. It's all right.
Mhm.
And then that moment happens, and like I grab my chair. I yeah, no, I thought I was gonna book it. I was like, oh, we gotta go.
He's coming at me. Yeah. We went from the trains moving in, and you think the train is gonna come at you to Darth Vader in the freaking hallway,
That
man.
that's what it is. When the yeah, exactly. It's the same feeling of when people would be like, "Whoa," when the train would come at
Yep.
the screen and they're just like, "Oh my god," run out of the theater. I had that same feeling when Vader, just when the saber turns on. So it's just kind of smoky, and then you just see it just turns on. Right when you see that moment, I remember gripping my chair. I kind of initially had that like flight reaction, that like, oh, we gotta go. Oh, wait, where am I gonna, like, this is like, and I just sat back and enjoyed it. But I was just like, oh my goodness, Vader is coming at, because that's how they make it. Like he's coming at you, like slicing all these people,
Yeah.
and they really put you in the seat there. Um,
Yeah. No, you faked it. No, you
yeah, he
didn't.
did.
That was I didn't react that way, so no, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's like that's just so silly because that's what those moments are made for.
Mhm,
You go to a scary movie, the audience is expected to scream. You
mhm.
go see a comedy, the audience is expected to laugh. You go see an epic film like that, Star Wars, fantasy, Marvel, DC, epic blockbusters. You watch it and it warrants for a crowd to cheer and laugh and cry and scream all together, all in one compact experience. And that's what I love about those moments, man.
Yeah,
And we're only going to get more of those on the streaming services, like with the Obi-Wan show and Hayden Christensen coming back in the Darth Vader suit. We're only going to get more of those moments because they're getting the director, Deborah Chow,
mhm.
who did some of the best episodes from Mando. She did season 1, episode 3, with all the Mandalorians coming in to help out Mando at the very end. That is one of the greatest episodes of Mando, where Mando goes back to save the child for the
Yeah,
first time, right? To
yeah,
get him out of that doctor's
yeah.
laboratory and stuff like that. Deborah Chow is responsible for that episode, and she's doing
Wow.
the entire Obi-Wan series with Darth Vader included. So it's
Wait,
like we're
they
only
gave
gonna
that to her to
they gave
handle?
her that entire show to
Oh,
handle, to direct and showrun.
oh,
Yeah.
she's
It's
gonna
gonna be absolute
she's
nuts.
gonna kill it. She's gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna be nuts. It's
Yeah,
gonna
she's gonna absolutely demolish it, and
mhm,
that's what I love about these new Star Wars shows too, is that they're going to interconnect everything with a plan.
mhm.
Everything is going to be planned and coordinated by Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Deborah Chow, all at the helm with all these great directors, and they're gonna intersect them. And I'm telling you, we might get a Thrawn antagonist for this all these series, Ahsoka, Mando, Boba,
Like a big
Luke
bad.
might show up. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Thrawn will be that big bad,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
way that I think the sequel trilogy should have
Yeah,
been set
yeah.
up in the first
So one
place.
thing I will say about Thrawn is that I've always wanted him in the Shadows of the Empire trilogy. So I always imagined when I was a kid that before the prequels came out, I remember always telling my homies, my dad, telling all these people all the time. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if they had a trilogy of like movies in between the movies? And I
Yup.
thought that the first ever would be so good if they did Shadows of the Empire with like the Dash Rendar, the game that we got in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
And so then they have movies like that. I always thought that concept would be cool, and you could do stories that are kind of mirroring the main story, but outside, like tie-ins and stuff like that. But
Yep.
now, and I thought in my head, I thought Thrawn would be the big bad of my fictional trilogy.
Mhm.
For those like old school fans that had were subscribed to like Wizard and stuff, like Wizard used to do the very first fan casting, and so they would come up with a fictional movie like Shadows of the Empire or something, and then fan cast it, and they had like Van Damme as Dash Rendar and stuff like that. But that concept would be so cool. And now I feel like they can do this. And I do, more to your point, I do think that you can kind of correct the feelings somewhat, somewhat. You know, Rise, like you said, I don't know how you would do that, but for Last Jedi and certain errors, yes, yes, I do think. Sorry, I do think that you can tie in, and yeah, if you make us like Baby Grogu or something, or whatever, and then he dies later as an adult or as a kid or whatever, as a young adult or whatever, and then now we understand his failure, or his, you know what I mean, his more embrace, like how Luke embraces failure, or that side,
Yeah.
whatever. I do think that that can happen. Yeah, I do think it could happen. I feel like these people can happen. I hope that they make this so good that we just don't care, you know.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they've
All of
already done that, to be honest. I think
them,
they've already done that
yeah,
because I thought after walking out of Rise of Skywalker, I was like, this just is such a weird feeling, the way that I feel towards Star Wars right now, and, I'm just gonna watch the original trilogy as much as I can to repair what
yeah,
I just saw, because
yeah,
all those decisions, just going back and forth, Rey being a nobody at first, and now she's a Palpatine, just decisions like that were just like, "Oh my actual god, I can't believe they released this."
yeah.
Um, but watching Mando, like I said, I don't think I've ever loved Star Wars more than I have
Mhm.
now, as of today, because of what Dave Filoni and Favreau have established with Mando and how they're intersecting it with the main storyline. It's absolutely nuts. I don't know how they're doing it.
So, we've been talking a lot about Star Wars or whatever, but we did get a few questions. We put it out that you were coming or whatever, and we got a few questions, and that's
No
actually,
way.
yeah, yeah. So, with all the Star Wars stuff and all the Marvel announcement and all that stuff, and even the stuff that's out right now, is there anything that you're watching that isn't Star Wars? What would you recommend that you're watching? Any shows or movies that you're watching that are not Marvel, not superhero show, you know what I mean? Anything like that, not
Oh
DC,
yeah.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. As much as I love Marvel, as much as I love DC, Star Wars, epic blockbusters, I'm always watching movies. I'm always prioritizing movies,
Mhm,
more than shows and stuff like that.
mhm,
I love movies with all my heart, so I'm always watching movies, and especially during quarantine. I think this is like the most I've ever watched like movies in an entire year when it comes to just playing my Blu-ray collection and stuff like that. So I've had so many memorable experiences. The most recent movies that I've watched that aren't related to DC or Star Wars or you know uh,
Marvel.
yeah, Marvel stuff like that. Recently saw Jingle All the Way, which is an
Oh,
instant classic.
that's
One of
my
the best
favorite
Christmas
that's
movies
my
ever.
favorite Christmas movie. Favorite
It's
Christmas
so damn good, Daniel. It's
favorite.
so damn good to
Okay.
this day. It's absolutely amazing. I love how you can watch that movie and it reflects the times now, especially for the craze for the PS5 and stuff like that. So it's just so damn good. And I love the Turbo Man sequence at the very end.
Mhm.
The father, the reluctant father who doesn't follow through on his promises and to
Yeah,
become the hero for his
yeah,
son. Like
yeah.
that
How
that
could
that to me is like the Christmas spirit, man.
Christmas, I know, and it's action packed for those that like action. Has Arnold, it has like comedy in it. What
Yeah.
Hartman's in it? Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, Sinbad in there just being someone you hate.
Sinbad on his game. That was like prime Sinbad too. That was prime Sinbad. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I watch it every single year, several times, on Christmas season. Sometimes not on Christmas season because I just love that movie. I do
it's
feel,
so great. We got to see Anakin in there, young Anakin.
yeah, we did. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was the son. It was so funny. He was not that good in that movie.
Hey, don't bully him, bro.
Yeah, yeah. No, but that's
Yeah,
funny.
but I love that movie. I also saw recently. I saw Reservoir Dogs with Julius again.
Oh,
We wanted to test it out on the 85 inch, and Reservoir Dogs, I think, is honestly, after I watch Reservoir Dogs, I'm thinking to myself, this is probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie because it's just that good, man. Oh no, it's not literally my favorite. My
okay.
favorite is Django Unchained,
Okay,
but
mine
it's
too.
but it's
Yes.
but it's just
Yeah,
but it's just that good to where it's like, man, this is probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino because I love the cast. I love that it's like a heist movie. You never see the heist. I
yeah.
love that it's really about trying to discover who's the rat and stuff like that. Great dialogue, great editing, and amazing non-linear editing as well. I don't know if your brother's a fan of that, but I love it when directors and editors do that. Nolan does that a lot, Tarantino does that a lot, and I love that type of style when it comes to filmmaking.
I don't know how much he likes it, but I know he likes Memento a lot.
Oh, that's
So
probably the prime example. I think that
exactly.
that is, I think, probably the singular most greatest like
Mm.
editing of an entire movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Memento so much, so much. Every time I put it on, it feels like I'm watching it for the first time. That's
Yes,
how good the
yes,
editing is.
yes, 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 and that's how you can tell the editing is amazing. Because every time you watch it, sure, you're not surprised, you get the you know the twist is coming or
Yeah.
whatever, but it does feel like a first watch every single time that you watch
Every single time.
it.
Because he starts it off by going backwards.
Yeah,
So already it's just there's something magical about the editing going on where you're just completely entranced in that style of filmmaking.
I
God,
think
I love Memento so much.
yeah, I think it's hard to remember, like, linearly. You can't.
You
Physically,
can't, yeah.
you can't remember it that way. So every time, especially if you wait a while and you watch it, yes, I think things will happen. I think things will happen, but and you're like, oh yeah, make yeah, I kind of remember this, but you don't remember the placement of things. You know what I mean? So that's why it feels like a first watch because you're going along with this mystery. You're trying to solve it like he is, like the character is. Mementos
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. But
How
yeah,
long has it been since you've seen Reservoir Dogs?
probably a year or two. I love Reservoir Dogs. I like it a lot. One complaint I have heard about Reservoir Dogs is that it's claustrophobic. The
I
ones
see.
that you
It
see
has to be.
in but that's what I feel. I exactly. I feel like that not the point. It's not the point, but it adds to the whole effect of the movie. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
feel like you're hiding out with these guys. You're sitting in the corner and you feel I love those movies when you either feel like another character or like you feel like you're a fly on the wall, like you
Yeah.
feel like you're in
Or
it.
you just feel like the environment is coming in on you and crushing on
Yes.
you. So,
Yes,
for
I like that.
example, Reservoir Dogs is that, and so is John Carpenter's The Thing. The
Uh-huh.
Thing is very much like that, where they're all in this one space and they're trying to figure out who's who to trust. You
Well,
know?
The Thing is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah,
I just say that.
without a doubt.
That blows so many movies out of the water. It's just crazy. Kurt Russell.
Without a doubt. I love that movie so much. I love the soundtrack. It's
Oh,
seriously one of my favorite movies ever, ever, ever.
ever,
Like if you were to
ever,
bury me with my Blu-rays, put that one in the coffin with me. You know what I
for
mean?
sure. No, that's a must see. That's for sure. That's for sure one of them. We did get another question though. So if you had to adapt something and it couldn't be Marvel, DC, Star Wars, what would you adapt to a live action film?
So
What
the one I've always wanted to see, honestly, and I love this Disney movie. I don't know how you feel about it. I love Hercules, the animated movie Hercules. I
okay,
love it
that
so much,
I love
and
it.
I love that story.
Mhm.
I love that it's a musical. I love Hades in it. He's completely hilarious. He's
And
like a
it's action
salesman. Yeah, action packed, and it's just a great story. I love this idea of this demigod, um, or this god losing his powers, coming
packed.
to Earth, and then getting those powers again and then losing them, truly understanding that he doesn't need those to be a hero. That
Mhm.
to me is just like it's my favorite like story trope, the hero's journey, but with the setting of Greek mythology. That to me is my favorite, and I think that would translate well out of all Disney animated movies.
Mhm.
It would translate the best out of everything that we've seen so far. Because I honestly think all the live action Disney projects that we've seen have been all right, honestly. I don't think I've seen one live action remake where I was like, this was incredible or close to on par to the animated stuff. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, I agree. I mean, the one that most I like the most, I feel at best was okay and was probably Jungle Book, maybe. Uh,
Yeah.
Jungle
And
Book,
Favreau did that too. And I honestly thought that that was okay. Like it
yeah,
was
that was
okay.
okay. Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, this is okay. I prefer the Jason Scott lead Jungle Book. If you
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I used to have that on VHS.
Hey, same, same. That's a good one. If you haven't seen that, people definitely go back and watch the first. If you've only had experienced this other Jungle Book and the Disney Jungle Book, watch the Scott Lee one. It's a good one. It really is. It's good.
Dude, that one is a classic. That one's a classic. But also, I was thinking of another movie to recommend to people. It's actually one that I watched last night. To the previous question, I showed my brother for the first time The Martian, starring Matt Damon,
Oh,
directed by
okay,
Ridley Scott.
okay.
I thought that movie is absolutely just remarkable. I think visually it's spectacular for them to bring Mars to life like that. I just love the story of survival. It's like Castaway in space. That to me is just a really all around great film.
Didn't it win a comedic award or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. It was. I think it went up for a comedy at the Golden Globes, which is just so silly.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the movie's hilarious. I think it's
Okay.
really
Okay.
clever the way that they write comedy and stuff like that. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend The Martian. Ridley Scott came to direct with that movie, of course, and Matt Damon came to act. It's really all around a great movie. You're gonna be rooting for science when you watch it.
Yeah.
It's just really refreshing to see a science fiction movie that tries to be as human as possible.
Yeah. Ridley Scott's one of my favorite directors
Beast,
of all.
such a beast, man, such a beast.
Yeah, he's a legend for sure. Yeah, for me, so you would go with Hercules. Have you seen the Rock Hercules? His version of the Rock?
No,
It's
no,
good.
and I was excited to see it. My brother watched it and he was like, "Dude, I don't know if you're gonna like this," because
Oh,
he
come
told he
on.
told me what happened, and
Uh,
I'm like, "That's what happens," but I
yeah.
gotta give it a shot for my own.
So spoilers. So obviously he told you what happened already, but spoilers if you
Yeah,
haven't seen the Hercules with the Rock Johnson as Hercules. But I thought it was a really cool concept because the way they do it is you go in thinking. So yes, talking about expectations, right? You go in thinking you're gonna see Hercules be this demigod or whatever, but
yeah,
then you realize that it's this really strong, really good fighter for the time, but he's still just like he's a human still, but he does all these things and they kind of like it's just the appearance of certain things where the story gets exaggerated and they do that, but he's a real hero, so he does some hero stuff at the end, but
yeah.
it's just that how they take all of those legends of Hercules and they show you how why people saw it that way and like why we saw it and it wasn't really
Yeah.
like that, but
That is like the epitome of subversion, like subverting your expectations. Like we're gonna do something that you completely are not expecting.
at
And
all.
when it comes to Greek mythology,
Uh-huh.
like for me, it's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
I love Clash of the Titans. I
Oh,
love Wrath of the Titans.
that's
I,
so dope. It's
yeah,
so yeah,
it's
that's dope.
so dope, right?
Yeah,
I just love the
so dope.
story. I just
I
love the
agree.
idea of like these
Yes.
demigods just becoming greater than the gods themselves to save
Mhm.
everybody, battling the Kraken, riding a Pegasus with
Yeah,
wings. Like
yeah.
it's
Oh,
just awesome, Yeah, it's
yeah,
awesome, great sound effects. So it's like
it's awesome.
I don't need to see The Rock, who would have been perfect as the real Hercules. I don't need to
It's true.
see their take on like, all
Yeah.
right, here's a real take on Greek mythology.
Yeah.
No, that's not why I watch Greek mythology movies.
Yeah,
No.
right. No, and I agree. I agree. And it wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be, even that being said. But it is still clever because he still kills. So like the lion, he still kills a lion. It's still
Mhm.
the Rock and he kills a lion, but they think it's this bigger lion than it is because of the shadow. And the fool that tells the story is like, no, you don't understand. Like it was crazy, and there was fire, and you know what I mean, and so it kind of, and then it'll show like after the Rock dealing with it in a real way, but it's like I thought it was pretty clever. I thought I was gonna hate it. I thought I was gonna hate it, but um I think it came out with another Hercules movie that was even more trash and it was just like straight to DVD type of Hercules movie. But yeah, I would love to see Hercules in a live action or Robin Hood, any of those,
Yeah,
uh,
like that version of Hercules,
Yes,
I think because the story itself, I think is worthy of seeing on live action. Like
it's great.
seeing the live action version of it is the special effect in itself. So I don't think that it would be able to fail um miserably because I don't think we'd be really comparing it too much to the animation. I just
I
think the
don't.
spectacle itself and the story is just like, whoa, this is enough.
I agree. That's a really good pick. If I had to say, to answer that question, I know we have this movie, so maybe by default it would be She-Ra. I was gonna say He-Man, even though we have
Oh yeah.
the universe, but that one didn't
And
really follow.
He-Man. But
Yeah,
we do need He-Man, man.
yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, come on, give me a He-Man movie. And if not a He-Man movie because that's happened, then my answer is She-Ra because she's just as dope. She's so dope.
Yes.
And they just came out with a She-Ra cartoon that's really good. So I
Yeah,
watched.
talk about female protagonists that are like already established and are waiting to be presented
Mate,
on the big screen,
yeah,
like Shira exists,
yeah,
and it's crazy because She-Ra and Masters of the Universe have
Mhm.
so much great potential. I
So
think
much.
there's going to be an era coming soon where we're going to be able to see the just the potential of fantasy
Mhm,
and mysticism, all
mhm.
these come together. So those movies are going to be like a blend of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and it's like, yes, that's what the visual effects have been waiting for to
Yeah.
finally bring those to life. I think they're going to be able to do it soon.
I was always a huge fan of He-Man's one of my, He-Man, She-Ra. They're my favorite heroes, along with like Silver Surfer. Favorite, and again, like I said, I'm a Marvel guy. I love Star Wars, greatest story ever told. But it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like my favorite heroes are like Silver Surfer, the Turtles, He-Man and stuff, because
Yeah.
those are the ones that I felt come to life. Like,
Optimus.
you know what I mean? Yeah, Optimus. Yeah, come on, give me some Lion-O. Like, give me some Thundercats movies. You know what I mean? But if yeah, I feel like they could. I feel like Masters of the Universe is exactly that. They have a universe there. You could tell She-Ra, connect him with He-Man. You know what I mean? Hordak and all these other things. And if you wanted to, maybe even throw Thundercats in with that same kind of universe or whatever. If you
Yes.
wanted to kind of to add a little more depth to it, but you don't have to. I'm just saying, like, it's a universe on its own, and I'm surprised that we haven't got it up until this time. Yeah, the toys were ridiculous. It was a whole thing. I remember being all about He-Man when I was a kid, and then it moved to like Power Ranger Turtles, and then Power Rangers,
Yeah.
like all this stuff. But
Dude,
uh,
He-Man's amazing. I've been waiting to see him on the big screen forever. If you look at concept art of He-Man,
mhm,
it is so dope.
it's so
It
cool.
is so ridiculously dope. Like just seeing the concept art alone is like, this is masterful. Like we got to see this.
And if you read the comics, those of you that read the comics, I mean, they're telling some good stories out there. I mean, even the ones with She-Ra, I think are really cool. But yeah, He-Man, I like it. They crossed over with Thundercats and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. And I know that the first one is what it is, but again, and I always tell you that we're spoiled now, right? So like we have so many superhero movies and so many Star Wars movies now, that back in the day, like we were back in the day, like I'm so old, but before the age of superhero movies,
Yeah.
we didn't have, like, just seeing a dude run around in a costume was so cool, So
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe wasn't that good, but when I saw it, I'm like, I love this. I don't care. Like, they're calling that dude He-Man. He's not really He-Man. I don't care. It's like it's He-Man, Dolph Lundgren waving a sword. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like I'm down. He's fighting Skeletor. Let's go. I'm in it because it's all we had. Captain America. I remember the movie I liked. I loved that movie. I went back. I saw it. It's not good, but I loved that Captain America movie where he fights the Italian guy, or like the Italian,
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. But now we're spoiled and we have all this. But I still like Masters of the Universe, so I don't
Yeah.
really, you know.
No, same here. It's crazy because right now we're in the age of superheroes and comic books. But I really do miss that good old fashioned sandal and sword story. I really do feel like if they can give us a Masters of the Universe with the same care that they do with the MCU
Mm.
and same style of like Conan the Barbarian, with Arnold, like that to me is like potential for like the greatest just universe ever to be established, man.
So I'm gonna lose a lot of credit here, but again, I'm biased, so I can say this. I know that Conan, the new one with Jason Momoa, wasn't the greatest of all time, but I just love sometimes, like, so that's why I understand sometimes the DC people, and I don't give them such a hard time,
Yeah.
because sometimes I'm like that too, where I don't care. I don't care. The movie's bad. I don't care. I don't care that it's bad. The dude's name is He-Man or RoboCop. I don't care what it is. His name is that, and I'm watching him on screen, and that's it. That's
Dude, I feel the same way when it comes to like Scorpion King. I don't care if you think
Yeah.
this is
Who
all
cares?
bad. This movie is epic. He's the goddamn Scorpion King.
And he wants to
Because
bring
there
it
are
back.
just, yeah, because there are some movies that are just like built like that. Like I don't know, like it's almost hard to explain.
Yeah.
Sometimes like when it comes to those kind of movies, i- it doesn't need film analysis. You watch it and you just know like this is
Yeah.
just badassery. I love the aesthetic. I'm in there. I'm in that world and I am the Scorpion King watching it.
I heard he's bringing it back. I love Scorpion King, by the way. But yeah, like I was saying, the Conan, it's bad, but I liked Conan. I just like seeing Conan. I like Conan. doing the thing is like, I don't know. I thought it was cool, and they show the birth where he's like birthed in battle. Like I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that was pretty sick. I don't know, but yeah, it's just crazy. I hope they make more of these films. They got to dive into all of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a
So,
really cool film. I have a question for you.
yeah, sure.
During our time of quarantine, what
Uh-huh.
would you say have been the most memorable movie watches that you've revisited, maybe with yourself or, with another person?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say, uh, uh, for a few dollars more. For a few
Ooh.
dollars more. Yeah, that's probably one of the most memorable. I watch that one probably every year. I watch that trilogy
Yeah,
um, because I love it. That Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is my favorite movie of all time. That's my
yeah,
favorite movie of all time. As a movie person, it's hard to have a favorite movie. There's so many, but
yeah.
that's like I love that movie. I really do, really do. And part of it is because of a few dollars more. For a few dollars more, I think that I don't want to say it's the better film, but I feel like part of why I like the third one for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is because it's so epic. But I can
Mhm.
see why showing other people that haven't seen that trilogy why they would like for a few dollars more because it's more compacted. It's more like the pacing is very it's just like everything's happening. Where Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it's an epic, so it feels like you're reading this. Like Return of the King. It's great, but you feel like you're reading a book. You know what I mean? Like you're
Mhm.
you're going on a journey. This is epic. And I
Yeah.
feel like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is an epic Western. So you're going to feel that time. They make you feel the time. And I feel like for a few dollars more, a lot of people maybe might like that more. And in this revisiting this year, I felt like for a few dollars more, it hit me so hard. I really like that movie. That's one of them. Last Crusade, because of Sean
Wow, yeah.
Connery. Rest in power. But yeah, Last Crusade, and then of course, all the Bond movies because of that. So and all the other people that we missed, and then we're watching their movies, but those are ones that I can remember off the bat that I'm like, okay. But Indiana Jones again is one of my favorite characters of all time too. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's go.
I actually rewatched that quadrilogy again, uh, during quarantine. I
Mhm.
showed my brother for the first time the trilogy
Okay.
first because he had
Okay.
never seen it, right? And he's 21 years old and he'd
Oh
never seen Indiana Jones the trilogy. So I tell you, when I showed him the trilogy, oh man, it was so special. Like, not only do I love watching movies, but I love showing people who don't even know one single line or scene. Seeing their reaction on it is just so mind blowing. And, that's what I kind of appreciate about my brother, how he's not so fully invested in films because it gives me another avenue to be like, yes, my
again,
excitement for this movie, my love for this movie can increase because I get to see him watch it.
yeah.
And like, I get to see it for myself for the first time again, too.
Again, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
another reaction again, and that's one
Yeah.
thing where I was about to tell you is like I'm kind of jealous. Like I'll make fun of Robert. Know? I'll be like, go watch more movies,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. What is your opinion?
Yeah,
Go
like
watch more.
what you're watching these for the first time, and so I crack, but secretly, when I'm not, after the conversation, I'm like, God dang it, because a lot of those movies I watched when I was much younger, and so yeah, they hit, but you're wowed because of the spectacle of it because you're a kid,
Yeah.
but I already saw it, and I'm not an adult to process the full like concept of ideas.
Yeah.
Not that Indiana Jones is so in depth or whatever, and you need all this
Yeah.
depth, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's an adult, so he's understanding all the joke, every single thing he gets to process and remember it completely, and it's for the first time, so he gets to have that like, oh, I know what you're saying. Like I feel this. I know what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so everything hits probably just as hard. And so it's like, yeah, watch more movies before you talk about movies. But but at the same time, I envy his fresh palette. Like
Yeah.
he hasn't seen a lot of these epic scenes that
Yeah.
are just like, and there's so many that you get to see somebody react to watching that. That's how I was. Like I got to see someone's reaction to for a few dollars more, and it was just It was cool.
Uh,
you know, like that means something because I see that movie all the time. You know, not all the time,
mhm,
but that's in my. I
mhm.
can recite the words like word for word. You know, and again, like watching it with a new person that hasn't seen it, it kind of felt like, oh man, okay, like now I was reacting with the person. You know, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
like this is dope. You know, like
Yeah,
especially
and
getting, you know,
that's the beauty of cinema is that you can
mhm,
experience those moments with somebody.
someone else.
You can rejuvenate your own first experience
Mhm.
again,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because those kind of movies are timeless.
Mhm.
They will always be set in stone, and you get to relive them as many times as you can differently throughout your life. And
Yes.
so that's what I really loved about it. Quarantine, one of the perks honestly has been to revisit these classics and show the best of the best to my brother. So the Indiana Jones trilogy for sure that you mention it, that's definitely one of them. He loved them. He loved the trilogy so damn much.
Oh,
Uh
what happened?
and oh, he loves the fourth one. He's
You
like
love
me. He's like me. Yeah.
oh, no,
He look,
no.
look. I
Yeah.
honestly, he's just like me. My brother is literally like we are on the same page when it comes to movies. Like it's crazy.
Mhm.
Um, but we love the fourth one, and I can understand the problems of the fourth one. But for me, the fourth one, I love the adventure aspect. I love seeing Harrison Ford coming back at that age. The problems that I noticed this year with what is the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
Yeah,
it definitely feels the least Indiana, and it's because of
of course.
like the use of CGI. You know, when you watch that trilogy, the practical effects are just at the forefront. And so all the CGI utilized in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's just like this is not okay. Like this does not feel like Indiana Jones. But I do feel like the spirit of adventure is still there. And Spielberg was able to craft an entertaining movie, in my opinion, I thought.
I thought there was moments of that, but I wouldn't give credit to the entire movie for having that. I just thought I thought a lot of stuff like, yes, okay, they did fly from because what I'm about to say is kind of like, okay, they're swinging from the vines. Like,
Oh, yes. Look, the monkey swinging, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But I do understand from all these years, from when I first saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, one of the main complaints is him being in that fridge and surviving that nuclear bomb and stuff like that. But here's the thing. But
that's
here's the thing.
mhm,
That happens all the time in the
yeah,
trilogy. I literally rewatched the trilogy,
yeah,
and so many ridiculous things
bogus.
happens
Yeah, yeah,
where
exactly.
it's like
Yeah,
that shouldn't be an
that,
issue. I think that
that's
is
why
Indiana Jones. Him falling from the plane in you
Raider,
know, the Temple of Doom,
Temple of Doom. Yes,
him
yes,
falling in the
the rat
plane
with a
with
rat.
short round
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the rat.
yeah,
It's like, okay, come on. But
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
so that has never really been an issue for me
Me
because
neither.
Indiana Jones is about the spirit of adventure and just overcoming these impossible obstacles.
And I agree. I mean, if you go back and you read the books, it's very similar to the expanded universe of Star Wars. And I'm
Yeah.
just mentioning it because if people are interested or love Indiana Jones, don't think that you're limited to what has come out. There is the Indiana Jones, the fourth movie. There's Indiana Jones, the novels. There's a bunch of them. Go back and read them. They're really, really cool. They do give you that spirit of adventure and like you really feel like you're in an Indiana Jones movie when you read them. So
Yeah.
some are better than others, but yeah, for the most part, they're all pretty good. And go back and watch the Young Chronicles, the Indiana Jones Chronicles. Those are amazing. It's an amazing
Yeah.
show. But yeah, my issue wasn't that. My issue wasn't that. Remember, we were talking about fan service. I felt like there was a little that again. That's not my main issue, but there was some of that, and it was not earned. You know, it just wasn't earned. Like the characters when they go and get information from them or something, everything kind of fits into a story, into the story in the original trilogy, right? And in this other, in this whatever you that movie that they got the Crystal Skulls, it's kind of like things are just happening. They're just happening. There's not really like, I don't know. It didn't feel constructed. You know what I mean? Even until the end, when they're even having the end, and they show us that they're storing it in Area 51 or whatever, and they're, you know what I mean? They're storing one of the skulls there or something or whatever the heck they're storing. Just trying to make us fans like be like, okay, that didn't hit like Luke. Like those moments that I'm supposed to go, oh, they're in that place and they're storing that thing. Like I didn't do that. I didn't do that in those moments. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like there's a clear and definite difference. Maybe it's not the worst movie that ever made was ever made, but there's a clear and definite difference between those moments when you meet Sean Connery as Indiana's dad, or even the opening scene to that movie alone. There's a different feeling from that, to any of the feelings they attempted to give us. Even when like even the bad guy that was in there, he kept switching sides. So I'm like, I don't feel bad for you. I don't feel anything for you. You're like a throwaway character because I don't know what you stand for. I don't know what you're about. You're like, you're on their side, you betray them, you're for yourself, then you betray, then you're cool again, then you're betrayed, and at the end you're cool. And then like you say some, like, he was like just there, so that
Mhm.
wasn't a big deal. But it's kind of like all these things kind of added up to me not liking the film. Does that make sense? So it
Yeah.
wasn't like any one of these one things alone. The nuclear scene, that scene, not at all. I didn't flinch at all. I was like, this is Indiana Jones. Like, this is,
He would survive that.
you could survive that. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? No problem with that scene at all. It was just more the structure of the film, and how like, I don't like when, again, fan service is cool, but when you're forcing it, like, oh, you're gonna think this is cool, and like I don't, I don't. When I can sniff it off of you so much, like so much, that, and it's littered everywhere, kind of cheaply, I don't really like it. And I think that with his son, and you kind of know, as the tell me this isn't true. As the movies has Shia LaBeouf as his son, they're not going anywhere with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going anywhere with this. And so that's where like, this is just like, okay, they're not going anywhere with this. We know this. So what does this mean? So now you're kind of watching it with that kind of thing, that bad taste in your mouth, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but again, I mean, and then compared to anything, the novels, the young Indiana Jones, or anything, Indiana Jones from the original trilogy, it doesn't touch. It just doesn't touch it. I don't.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you mentioned that, even when you watch Indiana Jones as a kid, they don't have to be so emotionally deep. But when you're older, you can fully appreciate the heavy themes
And,
that are in there. And I think the most prominent one is The Last Crusade, with that whole father son dynamic, and the father learning to let go of his obsession for searching for these items so that he can have a true connection with, Indiana.
yeah.
And that's what I just love about those movies, because not only are they huge spectacles, adventure, prime action movies, but they also offer something that is just so delicate to the human spirit, which is what makes me think that, yeah, Spielberg is the greatest of all time to ever do it, and who will ever do it. I just think Spielberg is an actual cinematic god, and I just love those movies so much. So the Indiana Jones trilogy for sure, super memorable. But for me, three movies completely stand out that I watched for this quarantine with my brother. So I showed him The Last Samurai for his first time ever with Tom Cruise, and me and him have agreed that out of all the hundreds of movies I've showed him, that one is at the top of the mountain that stands out for
Wow.
us. Me
Wow.
rewatching it again,
Yeah.
maybe it was the surround sound, maybe it was the size of the screen, but there was something about rewatching The Last Samurai this time where I was like, yeah, seeing my favorite actor ever in this just grandioso of a story of, harkening back to the Last Samurai culture and just trying to save culture itself, you know what I mean, while bettering himself by understanding the principles of discipline from these men. Just absolutely spectacular. Hans Zimmer's music in that movie is absolutely ridiculous, man. Love The Last Samurai. I also showed him Scarface for his first time ever, and and I told you that day when I showed him, he bought a blanket of Scarface. He bought a phone cover of Scarface. We were listening to the Scarface soundtrack. He was
How cool that
impersonating
is.
Tony Montana.
So cool. So cool. And for the first time, he gets to experience that. That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
because I saw
with
that.
the fully developed brain.
That's what
So
I'm
like
saying.
he literally full throttle experienced everything.
Yeah, I saw that as like what, in middle school or something. And so that's I was like a sixth grade, seventh grade. I saw Scarface, I guess, for the first time ever. And so So yeah, so you're getting it. You're like, this stuff's intense, but you don't fully understand, what the impact of these drugs are or whatever, the whole scope of everything until you're older. And for him to hit this and to still feel that way, like even though you're a kid, but to see that it's good. It just shows how good the movie actually is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and that one is a masterpiece.
No,
I love Scarface to death. I mean, what Al Pacino was able to do, just create this character that you follow along on this just tragic story of greed, of power, of
yeah,
madness. It's just
addiction,
it's,
obsession.
yeah, Scarface is so damn perfect. Brian De
Yeah.
Palma is such an amazing filmmaker.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie. Seriously, I know a lot of people look at Scarface as like some generic like film like
mhm,
bro kind of movie, but
mhm.
there's no way. There's no way. Like it just stands out among the classics
It's great.
throughout time.
It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies of all time for sure. But we did get another question. You know, one of our questions was because there's all this noise. We do talk about MMA sometimes on our podcast. We have a whole nother segment. It's called the Scuffle, where we talk about
Yes.
MMA only combat and stuff. But because of that, we got a question that asked, um, "Would you take a fight with a Jake Paul or any of the Paul brothers? And if so, if you would you win?" So
When it gets Jake Paul.
yes.
Well, I think first, in order to have a fair chance, I would have to at least train in boxing because I'm
Oh,
not a boxer,
okay, okay.
and of course, clearly he would have an advantage over me. But if it was a wrestling match, I'm 100% down. I would completely throw down with Jake Paul in a wrestling match and stuff
So
like
you're a
that.
wrestler then.
Yeah, I would wrestle.
So are you a
um,
are you a
but
wrestler or are you a wrestler like with the belt, like what kind of wrestler are you?
hey, I could do both. I could do both.
Both. Okay,
If you
yeah.
need me to be the showman with the boat, I got that, man.
That's
That'd be
good.
absolutely hilarious. But speaking of Jake Paul, I was actually gonna ask you too. What do you think about the whole notion of like Jake Paul coming into the boxing scene and trying to stir up all these fights, like with Connor and stuff like that? What do you think? What do you think it says about boxing itself? And you, as someone who is a fan of MMA boxing, is that something that you think is a positive direction for the sport of boxing?
So it's funny because I answer a lot of my questions with like yes and no, but I feel like there's a lot of gray area, right? Because he's bringing a lot of eyes to this sport, to boxing, where the good boxers that sure a fan is going to watch the good boxers. We're going to watch boxing
Yes.
forever. If you're already a fan, you're already a fan. You're just going to watch it, right? But like
Yeah.
as in terms of growth, it's a dying sport as in terms of growth. It has no growth, or not compared to the other sports, especially MMA, right? Um,
Right.
so now you have this guy who's coming in and he's kind of putting the spotlight on there. This that's a good thing, right? So that
Yeah.
in itself is a good thing for the sport. The bad thing for the sport is that it highlights how these good fighters are not bringing the eyes to the sport, but instead people would rather pay and watch and spend their time to watch a Jake Paul that they know is not as good a caliber of fighter as let's say an Errol Spence or a Terrence Crawford or any of
Mhm.
those Tiamofo or any of these guys that are coming up, Lopez or whatever, any of these guys that are coming up. Um, uh, uh, so I think it's good that he's bringing this because now it's on these guys, these younger guys, to kind of bring the sport up. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of pushing.
Yeah.
Boxing never felt the pressure. Boxing was kind of in its own niche. And even with the fans, like we like boxing, we hate everything else. We only like boxing. So we're cool with the fans that we have and we're cool. But now this is kind of highlighting like, dude, like these guys are doing your sport and getting more money doing your sport. The one thing I will say is that I think what said more about boxing, which wasn't a bad thing. If someone wants to compete in another sport and they're able to, why not, right? But one thing I will say is that I think Connor versus Mayweather showed a lot more about boxing than any of these other Jake Paul did, because Jake Paul is fighting. right now he's fighting other YouTubers, Nate Robinson, who's not a boxer, So if
Yeah.
he wants to be taken seriously, like who said is Izzy? I think Israel Adesanya said it, but if he wants to be taken seriously, he has to do serious things. He has to fight serious fighters, not
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he's always going to be seen as that guy, which is not bad. But I think when Connor went in and everybody tries to like rewrite history and downplay his performance there. This is okay. Mayweather is arguably the greatest fighter of all time, the greatest boxer of all time.
Right.
If not, you cannot argue that he's not on your top 5 to top 10 list. He must be on there if you're a fan of boxing. He must be up there just by career and by other things that he's doing. I'm pretty sure.
Statistics alone.
Yes, he's and even if you don't agree with that, you agree of the statement and the quality of his career and how he did it. This is among the greatest, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Let's say he's on my top fighters of all boxers of all time, right? In terms of skill and how he is. It just is, whether you like him or not. Because I don't like him, but he's that guy. Um, but anyways, Connor has never had, I think he had one boxing fight that was an amateur boxing fight. So essentially never doing a pro boxing fight. Granted, he did do combat. He does do e- elements of boxing, for his
Right.
combat training. Sure, that's fine. But he's never competed in a pro level at your sport.
Mhm.
Never. Never ever. Never. And so now this guy who's never competed is coming and against your greatest, not another guy that's like kind of lower tier or he's starting off. No, the greatest of that era, the greatest that he can possibly compete against, a guy
Right.
that's never done it. And he goes in there and then he handles the guy for 4 rounds. He's handling Mayweather for 4 rounds at least. At least 4 rounds, Connor won, and they were getting ready to do a screw job on him because if you look at the scorecards, luckily that fight was stopped when it was stopped. And I'm not giving Mayweather, I'm not taking any credit for Mayweather. He fought a combat athlete and he stopped him. So that's cool. I think that's good. But if you look at the scorecards, they gave every round to Mayweather. So so it means that's proof that even if McGregor took it to decision, they were going to
Right.
give it to Mayweather, right? So that's proof there that they're getting ready to do a screw job. And really, when you do that, it's proving that your sport, you don't have faith in your athlete. In the greatest of your era, you don't have faith in your boxer. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
I have faith that Conor McGregor, if Mayweather stepped in the MMA octagon, I have total utter faith, like total 100% faith, 200% faith that Conor would handle because Conor is arguably one of the greatest of all time in mixed martial
Yeah.
arts. So I think that the greatest of all time would handle a guy who's never competed in mixed martial arts, right? So it's
Oh my God. Yeah. Connor would completely demolish
right. So
Jake
I think,
Paul.
yeah. So I think that fight said more about boxing in general.
Yeah.
And I love
Than
boxing.
what Jake's doing.
I'm
Yeah.
not trying to trash boxing. I love boxing. It's a sweet science. I love it. But I think mixed martial arts is the savage science, and it's still a science, but it's a savage one. And I think that it's a different game entirely. And that's why these boxers, they're just playing around, right? And they're making money, and I don't fault them for that. But they're just playing around. They're never gonna have a real fight with a Diaz brother. They're never gonna really fight
Yeah.
the Masvidal, who aren't the greatest of all of our sport, but you won't even fight those. Like, and not saying nothing. I don't know if I would fight those. They're monsters. You know what I mean? But even the lower tier guy, unranked guys would smash
Yeah.
and demolish you like in a second, man. The guys on the
Yeah.
Contender Series.
Have him go up against Mighty Mouse. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah.
Cejudo, and Cejudo wants that fight with Jake Paul,
And
which is
he wants
absolutely hilarious. But he would kill him. He
to
would
kill
literally
him.
kill him. But the thing that I appreciate, I will say, the thing that I appreciate and don't appreciate about Jake Paul when it comes to boxing and what he's trying to do,
Mhm,
I appreciate that it will attract new eyes to the sport of boxing. I think boxing, like you said, it is a sport that is fading away.
mhm.
And I feel like having a new audience pay attention to these fighters, I think it'll bring a new audience to respected fighters, and that's what we all want. We want these fighters who are great artists
Mhm.
to be recognized for their work, and I think it just builds up the excitement for new matchups of champion fights and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I like that he's bringing a following,
Mhm.
uh new eyes to the sport of boxing. If he goes up against Connor, I think it'll be absolutely hilarious and stuff
Yeah.
like that. What I don't like is how arrogant he is about the whole, just because he knows nothing about the sport of boxing or respect or stuff like that. Literally, Jake Paul reminds me of Tommy Gunn from Rocky 5. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh my God, why do we got to bring that into boxing? I wish we could bring what Connor brought. Yes, was he arrogant and stuff when promoting the fight itself? Absolutely. But that's just who he is. But in terms of the fighting skill and two combat sports coming together, I thought it was the best case scenario.
Well, so one thing I will say about Connor is that or most of these fighters, they live by a code. So whether you it's subconscious or it's out there and they put it out there, Connor usually does what he says he's gonna do. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's things that we expect him and want him to do, but there's things that he says and he like attempts to do it. He still goes out there. He said he was gonna fight Cerrone. He fights Cerrone. You know what I mean? The one thing where I feel like the UFC kind of like killed that mysticism, but it wasn't his fault, is where he said, I'm going to have a season. And then because of COVID, it kind of killed his season that he had laid out for everybody for this year, for the year. Yeah, for this year. And so, um,
Right.
but yeah, but Connor was very disrespectful. I mean, he threw a dolly at a bus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way he was acting at the press conference with Khabib. I mean, I'm a Connor fan, but that was kind of cringy. I could tell that it
Oh
wasn't.
yeah, yeah.
No, that was the one moment where I could tell Connor was projecting, kind of like where Cerrone was projecting when he was fighting McGregor
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the press
Well, I
conference.
definitely think a lot was going on in his head mentally. I mean, to go up against Khabib, you're gonna have to bring everything you possibly can. And
Yeah.
since Connor is more about mental warfare,
Mhm.
I'm sure he was panicking before that fight. Because I mean, to go up against Khabib, like you got to give it your everything. It's survival in that ring, and we saw what happened.
I think Connor plays the mental game a lot, and that's not a bashing on him. I think it's a compliment, that he understands that it does exist.
Yes,
So why not play it? You know what I mean? Because it
exactly.
exists, so why not? The art of fighting without fighting, so why not? I just think that he realized that game, like Khabib wasn't playing it. It like it didn't affect. And so I think the fact that it didn't affect, not that he was doing anything back, but just the fact that it didn't affect, it did something to Connor, along with, like you said, the many factors of whatever, but I do think there's disrespectful moments of Khabib, even Khabib, who's seen as the most noble and whatever. One of the most shameful moment, not shameful moment, I'm being exaggerating, but he jumped out of the cage to try to fight Dylan Dennis, who's now trying to fight Jake Paul. I mean, all this stuff's connected. Khabib did that because he hated Connor. So he
Yeah,
jumps in and tries to fight Dylan Dennis. They go to blow whatever the
yeah,
crowd jumps on, and that's on national television. You're a pro athlete. You're jumping into the crowd, man. And this is the most
yeah.
composed, like, I'm not affected by anything. Even he was affected at some point because these guys are not animals, but they're fighters. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so they live.
But to be honest, if you had experienced all the stuff that Khabib did, and for him to compose himself for so long to bottle all that stuff up, don't you think that like someone like us would have exploded way beyond then? Because a lot of the stuff that was happening before that fight, you know,
Oh, I'm not judging.
insulting each other's like
Yeah,
religion and stuff like that,
yeah,
vandalism, throwing the dolly, throwing whatever it was through the window, cutting friends and stuff like that, disrespecting his father. Like,
yeah.
you know,
No, I
I
think it's
think
that.
I think that explosive moment was warranted. It's just it's disappointing that it happened.
Exactly. It's disappointing that it happened. I'm not judging Khabib on it. I'm just saying that these moments do happen, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know about rightfully
Right.
so, but I don't know what it's like. Even the guys that don't have all that press or build up or pressure to a fight, the guys that are just like somebody talked trash because this guy, what's his name? Gordon, I think it's Gordon Levy, Gordon something. Levitt, some not no, I'm just thinking Gordon Levitt's the actor or whatever. But
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
yeah, there's this fighter. He's funny, and he slammed this dude and knocked him out or whatever. And then he does these like leg splits, and people are like, oh,
Mhm.
and people are talking trash at Valerie Laruda from Bellator. She like does this like dance thing and she like shakes her butt when she wins and stuff. So people are saying like,
Yeah.
oh, distasteful and no respect or whatever. But I'm just thinking in my head like you don't know what that's like to get in a physical fight maybe. And let's say you do know what it's like to get in a physical fight. You don't know what it's like to be in the UFC or Bellator and go in there and win a fight and see what your emotions are going to be right after that. Like all your training, you've been training for months or weeks or whatever, in and out, your diet, everything, your sleep is for this fight. And then you win it.
Yeah.
You don't know it. It's easy to say like, oh, I would have never jumped out of the thing. I'm not saying it was wrong. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
just saying
yeah.
that happened. And yeah, like I agree with you. It's disappointing it happened. I'm not really judging could be because I've never been in that situation to not act that way, right? And to be like, see, I didn't do it. You know what I mean? I don't know what it's like because
Yeah.
I've never been,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, like imagine you're in a full-on brawl. You're giving it everything, and then
yeah,
you remember when somebody disrespected your mother or something like that,
right,
It's not gonna fly by.
right.
That's not
No,
you
it's not.
can't you got to handle that.
You got yeah. Exactly. You got sometimes you just have no. You got there's a cause and effect, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to be the effect, and so that's just the thing. But yeah, I do think it's just it's a different game, right? I mean
Yeah.
MMA is just a different game. I think that boxing, I think MMA can improve, right? I think UFC has kind of like they're going through that lawsuit. The UFC is going through a lawsuit, so that might change uh
Yeah.
MMA on as a whole, and so it's kind of exciting to see what this new year is going to bring. I'm kind of not scared, nervous a little bit because we don't. Although there are some things that boxing has that are good, like the Ali Act, I don't know if the Ali Act would transfer well to the UFC or to MMA in general. So I do think maybe variations of like the Ali Act or something similar to that. But I think unionizing is the way to go. So if they
Yeah.
unionize the fighters, then I think that's the first step. I think that's one thing that they should do. But then
Yeah,
again,
I agree.
who am I? That's just from me staring out from the outside. There's guys that understand this way better than I do.
Yeah.
But that's what
Well,
I.
the thing is, from the outside, I think we both agree that like these fighters, they're literally fighting for their lives, and they're doing it at such an efficient level, an elite level, where I feel like their pay should reflect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially when you're comparing it to boxing and stuff
it,
like that. I just think the UFC does need to work on unionization, and they need to get better sponsorships and be able to present their media much better in the same shadow as boxing because I think they deserve that kind of money. And that's why you see fighters like Connor be like, I'm gonna jump over to the other side because I know what I'm worth.
that's what's so crazy, right? It's like boxing as a structure is worse than MMA, right?
Hmm.
But the guys that are getting paid, there's more money to be made in boxing because of the Ali Act, because it's more like 80% goes to the fighter. I don't know about all that, but I don't know the exact number of what would keep the UFC running and stuff like that, but
Right.
they have to make money too, and they have to make, so like even to run fights, they were really the first sports back, and they didn't get credit for that when I think they said the NFL or NBA, when it was clearly the UFC for months doing events before anybody else did, and they didn't get the credit for that. So to be able to do that takes a lot of money. So I don't know what the exact number would be, but I definitely know what it is now is not the right answer. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
you have fighters that are like, no, I'm like Jeff Neal works at a restaurant, like at some restaurant, I think. Like, what? You're working at a restaurant? You're one of the greatest fighters in the world. He just fought Stephen Thompson right now, and he lost that fight pretty handily. Like Thompson is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Um,
Right.
uh, but he beat Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal, I mean, he had some issues going in. He all his basically his corner team couldn't go, and he was sick during training camp and stuff. Not excuses, but those things happen. But what I'm saying is, in the NFL, like even a guy on the sub bench, like is he working at a video store or something? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's not fighting. He's not fighting like getting his face bashed in. He probably doesn't even play. He's probably just sitting warming a substitute and making more money than the top fighters, not NFL players or golfers or like something where you'll never break anything. No, fighters, physical, like combat, like breaking your face, like guys that sit on a bench and never play or see the light of a game, are
Yeah.
getting paid more than Jeff Neal, who has to still work at another part-time job so that he can fight Stephen Thompson. Like it just doesn't make sense, like
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, it's wild. So one of the I think her name is Smith, Alex Smith, Ashley Smith. No, not Ashley Smith. It was one of these fighters that showed her bank account before going into a fight, and luckily she won the fight. But before she was like, after she won, she screenshotted a picture of her bank account before going into the fight. $17 and like 60 cents, something like that. So it was ridiculous. It's like, why does this pro athlete have that? And obviously, we don't know, her personal life. How are you spending it? You could be giving it away. Who knows? But it
Right.
just seems like I've never heard of like starving substitute players from the NFL. You know what I'm saying? But I hear
Yeah.
about starving top athlete MMA contenders, and it's really weird to look at fighters who do fighting as like a starving artist or somebody that's struggling, like doing such a
Yeah.
crazy thing.
It is really sad because I do think they deserve, a whole lot more, and hopefully that those things do change.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Um, but yeah, man, dude, we've been killing it for a long
I know. I can't believe it. Seriously, I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I just wanted to mention one more
yeah,
film that me and my brother had watched, and I
Mando.
don't know if you've seen it in a very long time, but this one really stuck out to us a lot when we rewatched Avatar on the big screen here with the surround sound. I know that film is popular to criticize and look down upon, but honestly, I love Avatar wholeheartedly. I do think it's a film that just completely entrances you in that story. I know it's a familiar story that we've seen, but to be honest, Dances with Wolves is like Pocahontas, is like Ferngully. I don't say Dances with Wolves is bad because it's like Pocahontas, or Pocahontas is bad because it's like Ferngully. I love the story, and I love the way that it was presented through this immaculate visual spectacle, incredible music, and I just love the idea of going into an avatar, living out a new life and bonding with natural living things. And I also do think it has like my favorite portrayal or depiction of what the meaning of life is. And I think it's just really about connection in a way. So I loved Avatar, and my brother watching it with me again, it was like, yeah, I can't wait to see this on again on the big screen and the sequels whenever they do come out.
That's what I was gonna mention. What do they announced like 20 sequels or something? Like
Yeah. I'm actually excited for those, seriously, because
okay.
James Cameron says he's coming up with new technology like he did for the first Avatar. So to see him go underwater, to see what technology he has, to see the filmmaking techniques, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
So that's it's funny that you say that because it's similar. It's one of those movies that as much as you want to hate on it, again, it pushed the boundaries of cinema, So you know, can you say it's a copy and paste story? Sure. I don't not like the film. So just so you know, I don't hate on Avatar. I don't like James Cameron, and I don't like that James Cameron came out and said that his story is original and this is an original
His
story.
story's original.
And so, yes, so that's when I'm like, oh, whatever. And a lot of these times we hold these people accountable to like one sentence on like a random podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm hoping being a little too harsh, but it's so funny because I
I, d-
don't.
I don't know him personally, like, and I don't know what arrogant comments he's made. I mean, probably yeah, this is my original story and stuff like that. That
Yeah,
is annoying, but
yeah, but it
when it
doesn't
comes
change
to
the
film,
movie.
man, like, yeah,
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 yeah, it doesn't change the movie at all. And I know
yeah,
how much you love
yeah,
Aliens. I know how much
yeah,
you love Terminator
yeah. I
1
love it.
and
Yeah,
2, True Lies.
yeah.
Like,
Right,
eh,
right.
Cameron is a beast
He's the
when it
beast.
comes to making movies.
He's a beast. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you can't. That's what I'm trying to say is like you cannot like the guy, but I mean, I just look at his catalog. It's kind of, and what's funny if you haven't seen Future Man, I forgot the actors on it. They're so good. But anyways, the Future Man has an episode for those Future Man fans.
Oh, with Josh Hutcherson.
Yes, Josh Hutcherson. That's him. That's
Yeah.
him. but there's a whole episode that's they go to like because they're traveling through time in this whole series, and
Yes.
they go to James Cameron's house, and it's hilarious. His house is just is like a computer. It's kind of like Space Odyssey, like it's so funny. It's hilarious. It's really really funny. But yeah, that's why I don't like James Cameron. But yeah, that movie it's a good movie. I thought it was pretty good. Like the action is pretty good. Visually hard to touch, right? I mean, hard to touch
Yeah.
visually. Who can, you know what I mean? Like very few films touch it, like get on that level,
Yeah. No,
So
it's crazy, man. Like,
yeah,
especially rewatching it too. Just the world of Pandora, like it just makes you want to go there. And like when he's flying on the dragon, like it's just, yeah, man, it's crazy. It's
yeah.
just crazy.
Remember when I was telling you about like how you get that feeling in Star Wars of like you want to know what's over there, like
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
get that feeling in with Avatar. I got that feeling with Bright. I know a lot of people didn't like Bright, but you know that movie Bright on Netflix with
Yeah.
Will Smith. I felt
Yeah.
like
And Joel Edgerton.
yeah, I thought that was a movie where I was feeling like, can you give me more where I'm like, what's going on in the corner
Yeah.
world building. So like I felt like a sequel would be really good to that movie. The first one was okay, and I liked it, but I could see people's criticism for it. But I feel like
Yeah.
that like Avatar, like something where there the world building is good. Obviously there's levels. I don't think Avatar's it's much better quality, but I just think when you have a movie that world builds like that. Oh man, you're hurting the fans when you don't give us a sequel. Like we want something more. So I think that's cool. So it is kind of exciting. I want to see. I'm more excited about what you said about him pushing the technology. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm more excited about than the actual film because not that I hated Avatar, but we've seen that story kind of play out very very similar. He did a lot of cut and paste in the story
Yeah.
structuring.
Yeah, of course, because I definitely think that was like his playground of like testing out this new technology,
Agreed.
this new 3D CGI motion capture
Agreed.
technology, and that's why it looks so unique and one of a kind. So I definitely think he needed to utilize a story that was like, okay, where can I play with this technology? Okay,
Right,
let me use Dances with Wolves. Let me use, the foreign invader narrative trope,
right,
Pocahontas, Ferngully. Um, but I don't detest the film for that because it's
right,
like, nah, I'm on board. Like this,
right.
yeah, this is a movie.
Yeah, and it looks great. It looks fantastic. How do you not get immersed in it? So I don't know. I thought it's a good movie. It's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but
Mhm.
it's definitely up there. I like it. I like it. I like the movie. I think it's good. So but yeah, I'm excited for all these new movies coming out this year with HBO Max and Disney and
Oh man, yeah, same. I'm telling you, and it's just gonna only create more conversations like this where we can just completely just geek out on all these movies that we love talking about, man. I'm telling you, it's people like you and the community that we've established, I think, where it just makes my anticipation for movies that I look forward to, like The Batman, like Spider-Man 3, or like independent films from like Chloe Zhao, Nomadland, she's gonna do Eternals, like
oh my goodness.
it's the passion that's generated, I think, through platforms like this, conversations like these, where it's like it just elevates it on a level where without these, I think the movies would have less value. But no, that's what I love about these conversations and doing things like this. I'm telling you, I could talk movies, anything with you all day, my friend.
Yeah, no, all day, man. It could be literally forever. I agree, though. I think that now, especially, just like Matt Reeves, or Reeves, he shared your reaction. Even
Yeah.
even if it doesn't do anything, it might make him do a better job. I don't know, but
Yeah.
not just your
Or
reaction.
add more fight scenes. Let's go, more fan service.
Right, exactly. And it's just we have that power now. I remember again talking about when I was a kid and we got these movies, they kind of just got thrown on us, We
Yeah.
didn't get any anticipation, we don't get any leaked footage, no leaked commentary. We just kind of get like we just know the movie's coming out because we saw another movie and then all of a sudden a trailer came out in that movie and it's like Punisher coming out next. Like, oh, what? Punisher? Okay, well,
Yeah.
you just waiting for Punisher to come out, and it comes out, and you're like, all right, that wasn't that good, but that's all we got. I love it. You know what I mean? So then, like,
Exactly.
but now we can
Exactly.
influence look at Sonic. Remember Sonic it
Oh
was
yeah.
weird, and then like the fans came and were like, "What the heck
Mhm.
is that?" And they went back and they
Yeah.
redid how
And
Sonic.
good, like they
Yeah,
should. How do you mess up a character design like that, you know?
exactly, exactly. So I
You
do
know?
agree.
And same thing happened when Warner Brothers announced that all their movies were gonna stream to HBO Max the same day as the theaters, and what happened? The fans, the people who are passionate about the cinematic experience, even Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, director of Dune, Prisoners, Arrival, Sicario, were like, "No, you're gonna kill the theater experience if you release movies the same day on the streaming service. How do movie theaters make their money? From concessions. So people need to go to movie theaters, of course, when it's safe. So no, don't do that. And what do? Now they're, instead of releasing Dune on HBO Max same day as theaters, they push Dune back, and now they're going to play it in theaters first without premiering on HBO Max. So it's like, yeah, this is the age of where I think filmmakers are more particular about how they tell their stories, because they have the fans in mind of what they want to see, because the filmmakers are also fans of what the fans want to see too.
Yeah,
This is the hype era where not only is the movie experience itself alone, we also have the anticipation as part of the journey
yeah,
within that movie
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, I mean, I know we argue about this, but teaser trailers and stuff, I
Oh
understand
yeah.
there's a difference between a teaser trailer and a full trailer. I do understand
Yes.
that. But that what you just said is my argument against our debate of whether you should watch trailers or not. I feel
Mhm.
like their choice in what they put in the trailer is part of that experience
Yes.
now of like
Yes.
from
Yes.
even before you get the trailer, just the rumors to the posters to
Yeah.
the trailers to the cutouts in the theater and your experience there and everything there.
Yeah.
It's like I think that's a process. That's why I try not to miss the ones. Sometimes I do know, like there's ones where I don't want to know much, and I won't watch them.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Like Nolan, like with Nolan. I will watch a first trailer for a Nolan movie because I know he's in charge of, all right, I'm okay with releasing that because he has
okay.
that power. So I
Yeah.
will trust the first trailer for a Nolan movie, but that's all I'm going to watch because I want to go into it as fresh as I can, while experiencing a first teaser trailer.
Mm,
But something for like the Batman, I have to watch the first trailer. I have
mm,
to. I
mm,
need to because I know it's part of the anticipation. And
mm,
look what happened from the rumors. Who's going to play Batman? Oh, it's Robert Pattinson. Who's going to direct it? Possibly Ben Affleck. No, it's Matt Reeves, actually. Oh, wow. So we have that coming together.
yeah.
Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to imagine what that looks like already before even seeing it.
Yeah.
Comes the day we see the trailer and we
Yeah.
see it. Oh, wow. It's exactly the way that I pictured
Yeah.
it. It's going to be a neo noir detective thriller, character driven masterpiece from Matt Reeves. Let's go. And then he starts fighting. Wow. Like it just, it's all part of it, and it's so important. I think that's what warrants just your passion for movies. It's part of the experience. So I would never put anybody down for like being excited for a project. Who wants to be that person to be like, stop enjoying things? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
no, like always try to be the better example, the better role model and stuff like
yeah,
that.
it's so odd to me. Like even if you do have that feeling, like I want to just take a poop on everyone's party right now. Like don't, just feel that
Yeah.
way. Feel that way. Just don't do
Just
it. You know?
keep it to
Yeah,
yourself, because
keep it to yourself.
what actually happens is you're going to be the one that's probably being laughed at by everybody else, because
Yeah,
the majority of the people are going to be enjoying it and you're the odd one out and stuff like
yeah,
that. So it just goes back to like, if you have nothing nice to say,
yeah,
just keep it to yourself, to be
yeah.
honest, because you're just going to make yourself look goofy, I think.
Mhm.
you know
I agree.
and I think the most respectable thing that you can do to combat like negativity and stuff like that is to not even respond to it like with negativity,
Mhm,
because I just think that anger begets greater anger, and it's
mhm,
just going to be just this ongoing cycle that it's like, it's not even worth my time. It's better to keep your perspective and focus and be as positive as you can about a certain project,
yeah.
because then I think your experience would just be fully maximized. Because who wants to go into a movie wanting for it to suck? Nobody, not me.
It's crazy weird. It's crazy weird. But yeah, you always want it to be better, right? And then
Always, yeah.
you hope for the best. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really crazy. But yeah, we can go again. We can go on for
I know, Dan. We can always do this, man. I really appreciate you for having me on and stuff like that and talking about this. I think it was a great discussion, and you know me, I know you. We love
yeah.
talking movies. We could literally talk anything, but I want you to get on with your day. We're probably going on for like 3 hours here,
Oh,
but I
seriously,
want you to do other
I
things
don't even know
that
how long.
don't involve
I don't know.
me.
It's like I was trying to see. I'm like, is it 1 hour, 2 hours? I don't know. It's been a long time. But yeah, no, I thank you for coming on to our show because it's always awesome talking these movies. And again, it's been however many hours it's been, So and I still feel like it's been 5 minutes. So
Yeah, I know, right? We could still keep going
yeah,
on, you know.
keep going.
Before we go, is there anything from your channel that you want to promote to your audience? Is there new videos that people can expect, new music?
Yeah, so right now Saga MC, you can catch them on Spotify, on Instagram, on YouTube too. But yeah, just the show no one asked for is we're coming up with new stuff like reviews, how to's and stuff like that. Maybe we're gonna put films against each other, see how that works. We don't know if we're gonna do that
Nice.
video format or just on Instagram and post, but we're coming up with new stuff to try and engage with the people and stuff. Definitely having more guests. So like you're really our first guest. So congratulations. So that's a thing right there, you
Yeah,
know?
what an honor, man. Yeah, and I heard Saga MC's newest release. I think it was
Okay.
called like Best Wishes or something like
Yeah.
that. So I
Yeah.
definitely encourage everybody to listen to it. I really enjoyed it. It definitely embodies the Christmas spirit, and you can tell he's really passionate about his music. So I
Yeah.
really like that aspect about your show. And yeah, everybody check it out on Spotify and stuff like that. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the show nobody asked for. Um, I think you won't get enough of these types of conversation. And I think it'll make you reflect differently about how you feel about movies and how important your own opinion is when it comes to movies and not really paying attention to negativity that's not even involving film criticism and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Don't ever allow that kind of opinion to affect your movie opinion.
I agree. Is there anything? How's the Goat Movie podcast? What anything that you guys are coming up with? I know you guys dropped a Secret Wars, right? A Secret Wars video.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm really proud of that aspect of the Goat Movie podcast. Julius, my co-host, has just done such a spectacular job of creating these epic,
epic,
fan-made pitches.
epic,
Epic,
bro.
so epic. They're
It's
really long narrative form podcasts. So
yeah,
if you have the chance, feel free to listen to them on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, pretty much any platform that we put out. Feel free to subscribe and follow to us. Those are fantastic podcasts to listen to, especially if you love the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah.
I guarantee those pitches that Julius has crafted are going to take you to a whole another world in a different way that movies do, in a very special way that only he has been responsible for. And it's really great to see the response that other people have had for our content as well. There's people that watch our videos and they're like, oh, we want to make a response to this, or like, oh, we want to do a trailer reaction to what Julius put together in this movie pitch and stuff like that. So we got a lot of cool stuff. We're staying consistent with their stuff, movie news, trailer reactions, fan cast, stuff like that, appearing as guests and having guests on, stuff like that. What a privilege it is, and a beautiful way to connect with one another, especially during these crazy times, man. Crazy times.
I agree.
But like I said, really appreciate you, my friend. Love talking movies with you, and wish the best for you, your family, your daughters, and your beautiful dog.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, where is he? Where's Dante? Dante,
he got bored of the he,
Dante.
he was like no more movies.
No, no, he's over here. Come on, Dante, over here. Treat. You can say hi to my dog. Is he, you have no? You don't have Chihuahuas? Do you have Chihuahuas?
Yeah, my four are oh look, what's up, Dante?
Dante.
Oh, Daniel, he looks just like you. I tell you, man, everybody says their dog owner looks like their dog. Look, you look like Dante,
He's
man.
so crazy weird.
It's
You always look
he's
like
so beautiful, man.
it's so weird.
So beautiful. I swear I love dogs, man. I
Yeah,
love dogs so
they're
much.
so
I
cute.
got four of my own. They're mixed with miniature pincher and
Okay,
chihuahuas.
okay.
And I'm telling you, it's funny because we've talked about this too before. We
Yeah.
were like, man, we hated chihuahuas. But now that we have
Yeah.
chihuahuas, we're like, how did we end up with chihuahuas?
How? It's so crazy. I hated little dogs, and out of the little dogs that I hated Chihuahuas the most,
The
and then
most, yeah.
that's the one I got. It's so crazy weird. And I can't. And I love
Yeah.
animals. So
Yeah, they're such a blessing too. You know, I that's what I love about animals. Like, I really do feel like they just each day is special to them. So
Mhm.
it's like you try to model yourself after how they perceive life, right? Like
Yeah,
every single second that you get is really
yeah,
an opportunity, waited to be utilized. So it's
yeah.
like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
what a beautiful relationship,
Yeah,
that you have there with your
yeah.
dog. I miss my dogs too. You know,
Oh
especially
yeah,
during
no,
this time when we're talking. I'm gonna hold them.
I'll let you get back to your dogs, but thank you for coming on, man, and
Of course,
thank
bro.
you everybody for listening. Just like, comment, share, subscribe, and subscribe. Same things to Goat Podcast. This is the show no one asked for. Episode 617. 617. Yeah, we're on 617. But yeah, thank you everybody, and peace out.